of this kind of reoccurrence. And as a result, last week we had heavy rains coupled with hailstorms, and this affected specific locations in terms of villages, Ato area, and also parts of Alere in Aboatin parish, and then Omonyogweno in Abua parish, which are severely affected. And this affected mostly crops and also livestock. For crops, mostly maize and cassava were hit. In terms of the magnitude of the destruction, we have 632 acres of maize and cassava destroyed. This affected a total of 1,146 people from about 191 households, 154 acres of maize, and 83 acres of cassava, among others. My prayers, Right Honorable Speaker, is that the government takes this as a serious issue and comes to rescue of the distressed farming community of Amogo sub-county. And we are asking for, if possible, I know that we've done this in the past with limited response from the side of the government, but we continue to plead for food relief and also seeds to support some of the farmers who had actually got seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides on credit from agro input dealers. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. A few minutes ago, I spoke to the Minister for Disaster, Right Honorable Speaker. Finance at least released some emergency funds for government to make procurements to help distressed areas. So the minister assured me that by this weekend, they are expecting some food to be arriving in their stores. So Right Honorable, I'm going to ensure that Alebutong and other areas for which we had committed, the minister delivers the required food.
I think there was a similar issue from Chigevwa.
Yes,
Yes,
and
please.
generally.
No, I think you just because we have a similar situation in Chigevwa. Honorable Nuru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is almost the same thing because Chigevwa was hardly hit by hailstorm. The areas of Ntara Town Council, Chotamshana, and the entire Ntara Town Council, the sub-county of Rwenjaza, the entire sub-county was seriously hit, and the sub-county of Kanara. These are the areas that were badly hit by hailstorm. So my prayer is that if we could get food for these people, and at the same time, if we could get seeds so that our people can plant and also survive like any other Ugandans. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you make the same commitment. Chigevwa, also Mukono the same, but she didn't come to me, so please proceed. Maybe you have started negotiating this thing outside the Speaker's office.
No, sorry, Right Honorable, I just heard her saying Mukono. I thought she had come to your office. So, Right Honorable, like I told colleagues, we received some money, around 15 billion, and we are already now making procurements for very, very urgent interventions in terms of food, in terms of tamperings, in terms of all those relief items. It might not be enough, but we are going to try our level best to ensure that at least we reach in most of these areas, including Burisa, that hospital which was taken by floods. We've resolved that indeed we come in, we immediately build an emergency health center 3 in Burisa to serve the community. So starting next week, we are going to start distributing food and relief items for those areas which are highly distressed, Right Honorable Speaker, and including Karamoja.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Ginger District.
Maybe Right Honorable, just one small thing. For honorable members whose disaster committees, district disaster committees, have not yet submitted reports to the office of the Prime Minister, I request you link up with the CAOs to ensure those reports are submitted, because they are the ones we are basing on to make assessments and come in with the rescue.
Thank you, Honorable Government Chief Whip, because you see, members also want their colleagues to know that they have had a problem. So that's why they come to the Speaker, even when all those procedures have been done, just to show solidarity with the people, they come and make this, they say, no, we have been hit, there's been a problem. Just, even when you say no, they've already sent some interventions there, but our people have been hit by this kind of situation. It also still serves the same purpose. Ginger District?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm standing here because I'm concerned with the conduct of Umeme and its staff during operations while dealing with the residents. Right Honorable Speaker, I would love to inform this House that the Umeme operations are characterized with panic, torture, running battles with the residents, brutality. An example of this is that on 14th September this month, there was a nasty incident in Jinja, in a place known as Namlesa. Residents were beaten up, tear gassed, and 2 women that are pregnant were tortured severely, and they are now admitted in a hospital, and even their properties were destroyed. My prayer, Right Honorable Speaker, is that the Director for Umeme should be invited to Parliament to explain to us why do they militarize their operations. Secondly, the Director for Umeme should come and commit himself on how he's going to compensate for the residents of Namlesa in form of medical treatment, and also compensating for their properties that were destroyed. I beg to submit.
Thank you. So all the requests are from Umeme to come to Parliament. Yes, procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, this Parliament agreed that the contract and the operations of Umeme be stopped in this country. And it was an agreement of this Parliament. And nothing of Umeme should even move near this Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, these things of Umeme, mistreating people, charging bills, Ugandans have been crying, including the president, came out one time and complained about this thing called Umeme. I think as Parliament, this is the time we should take a drastic decision and say no and stop the operations of this Umeme organization. So, Right Honorable Speaker, the procedure point I raise on. Would it be procedurally right to invite a company that this Parliament already said never go and close to come back to this August House when we are the same Parliament that said go no more operations of Umeme?
Even if there had been no resolution of that nature, we cannot invite a corporate company to the chambers of Parliament to discuss anything. The resolutions of Parliament, we pass them. But when we pass those resolutions, it's not like we have turned on a switch and turned off a switch. There are processes that will come after that. An assessment has to be done by the people from the other side to see how it can be done properly within the law. Because, as you know, Umeme is a concessionaire by the And the concession was given by the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company. I think so. They gave a concession to Umeme. And they agreed on terms with the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited. And so if the processes for termination are going on, they have to look at the contract and then see how it can be done properly. So Parliament may have given guidance on this matter, but let the people who are in charge of management of the contract look at it and take appropriate action. If they don't, we'll have occasion again to have a discussion to see why they have not heeded to the call and seek an explanation why. Is it because the contract cannot be terminated? Is it because if you do, the cost implications, the legal implication will be too much? Then they come and explain to us. But for now, I'm sure the processes are on. And like you said, so many people are unhappy about what goes on with this. But I'm surprised that even Umeme now can you buy tear gas and use in this country. Umeme has its own tear gas. Yes.
Thank
Honorable
you very
Minister.
much, Right Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Minister for Energy and Mineral Development is not in the House. Let me stand in for her and thank the Honorable Member from Jinja for raising this annoying issue. And we condemn in the strongest terms the harassment of Ugandans, even if they're not Ugandans. Nobody should harass an individual, particularly on the basis of what she's raising before the House. And definitely Umeme would be out of order if they are doing that. The Minister responsible for energy will be instructed to investigate this matter and give us a report next week over the issue raised by Honorable Member that the Umeme staff are harassing and beating Ugandans. That's not acceptable. But we shall request the Minister for Energy to investigate this matter urgently and then bring us a report. It may not be possible to bring Umeme in the House, but the Minister who supervises the sector will come and give us a report next week. And maybe we could also give her like 2 weeks to update Parliament on the status of the contract of Umeme in the country. So we make those undertakings. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. But in the meantime, the pregnant women who are in hospital, the minister has come. Honorable Minister, you're in charge of the sector of energy. Issues have arisen about the conduct of staff of Umeme, which the Honorable your colleague has responded to in brief. But the statement is that some staff of Umeme went and brutalized people, including pregnant mothers who are now hospitalized. And the member even says they had tear gas. And the seeking or treatment of these persons who have been injured and other matters. Would you need to say something about that? Because the Honorable Minister had made pledges that the ministers will come with the proper statement after investigation. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we are aware of what is taking place and the ministry is investigating it, and we shall submit a report on it. We are carrying out an investigation on what's happening. While we're in Uganda, we actually met a demonstration when we were in a tour, and we stopped and addressed the congregation. We also had an experience of the same in Kumi. The senior minister has actually issued an investigation to that cause, and we shall submit a report.
Do you have any idea about the processes of what Parliament recommended that this contract should be terminated? Do you have any idea, or would you prefer to come back later with that?
We are aware about that one too. And we are carrying out a study because there was a concession and it was supposed to last up to 2025. So we are looking at the cost implications. If we terminated it now, what does it imply? And if we let it continue running, what's the financial implication? And we shall. Is that another question?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Minister. Honorable Speaker, through to the Minister, I was among the members who investigated in Nssf where a member was involved in a number of issues. But the clarification I'm seeking is in relation to what the Commissioner has said. Has Umeme's contract been terminated or it is still functional? That's what we want to know right now, Speaker, so that the records can be clear. If it is blacklisted, is it still functioning or it has been terminated? The Minister can explain that so that our records can capture that very clearly right now, Speak. Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, that question which is being asked, we are still studying on it, and we are going to submit a report on it. But Umeme is still working because the concession has not been terminated.
Thank you. Palisa?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to air out the matters of national importance in my district. For record purposes, I'm Kala Kevin Ojinga, the district woman MP. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on matters of national importance. Last week, we had heavy rains that flooded almost half of the district. These floods washed away the bridge, 3 bridges, the main bridge of Kaboloi that served the people of Agule, Chadakura, Kameki, and Obolso sub-counties, and also another bridge from Ometai. There was effort to reach out to the Ministry of Works and Transport because they are the ones who are solely responsible of building the main bridges. But up to now, there's nothing that has taken place. Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer, I want to ask probably you, because most of these ministries work on directives. If they're not directed, nothing will happen. Yes, that is the fact. When they have not been directed, they will not reach there. So my prayer is, let the ministry that is responsible reach out to that bridge, to those bridges, because pregnant mothers cannot access the district hospital and other sick people, and even the farmers, they cannot bring their produce to town. We have fishermen. So I'm asking, Right Honorable Speaker, let the ministry, whatever that is concerned, reach out to the district and help us. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for according me this time.
Honorable Minister, you are here. Is it your first time here or since?
Yes.
You're very welcome, Honorable Minister. We thank God for your presence in this house. We know what we went through, but you're welcome to deal with this matter.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I respond to Honorable Karal, let me take this opportunity to say this. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you and thank the whole Parliament, the whole House, for I can't even mention, the spirit you showed me during that difficult day of the 1st of June. I've never seen that kind of love. Thank you very much. And Honorable Speaker, I thought if we could be loving each other like that, not only in times of bad situations, I think then the world would be a better world to live in. I highly appreciate every one of you. I appreciate the messages. I appreciate the contributions. I appreciate everything. Thank you very much. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I would request, I've heard the cry from Honorable Kala, and I request that in some of these circumstances, please, for some of us, we will have an open door policy. If that such a matter is there, either call me, come to my office, and let's address these issues, because our people must get the services. Please, let's be ready to talk to each other directly instead of delaying. I don't need to have any other direction. Any other directive from any other person. So if you have any issue, I've had a number of members of parliament who have been to my office on some of these issues. So I would encourage you, please come and give me the problems. If I can solve it, I'll solve it. If it requires another ministry to partner with, I'll do that. So that's I had not got that report, but I'll follow it up, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, again, welcome, but you should not be disheartened by this. It will be a dual process that the member will notify you, you take action, but it's also of benefit to the member and the people who are affected to see their members speak on the issue that is really afflicting them. Yeah, so we cannot rule that out because it would be difficult for the member for Palisa district to do the other processes without letting the House also know that our people are in trouble from natural disasters. Thank you very much. Can we now go on the order paper, please? On what matter do you raise, Gomba West?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Is it procedure? Or
Yes, Right Honorable
procedure, yes.
On 17th August 2021, the Right Honorable Speaker referred to the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, the Returned Succession Amendment Bill 218 and the Sexual Offences Bill 219 by His Excellency the President for consideration. The committee commenced the consideration of the said bills under Rule 143. On 16th September 2021, the Right Honorable Speaker guided the House of the businesses that had lapsed within the 10th Parliament and its implication on the 11th Parliament. Implication of the Speaker's guidance. Pursuant to Rule 235, the returned bills ceased henceforth as a result of the guidance rendered by the Right Honorable Speaker on Thursday, 16th September 2021. The text of his communication is attached here. In light of the above, the committee awaits the reintroduction of the two bills to enable it to work on them. I beg to report.
Thank you very much. I think the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee is saying they don't have any work now. That's all it is saying. Because what had been sent to them had now been overtaken by events. So the Legal Committee, the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee wants to be busy. So let's get them work to do. Thank you. Honorable members in the distinguished treasure gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation from the Parliamentary Forum of the International Conference in the Great Lakes region. That's the Parliamentary Forum. They include Ambassador Honorable Onyango Kakoba, who is the Secretary General, Ms. Winnie Kamau, who is the Program Manager, and Mr. Jules Biabagabo, Human Resource and Procurement. They're here to observe the proceedings, but they're also here to meet the leadership of this institution, since the forum has a membership as the Parliament of Uganda as a full member. So there are things that they needed to brief the leadership of the House about, and please join me in welcoming them. Yes, let me proceed. Order.
Item number 3, statement by Minister on the status of
the quality of communication services in Uganda.
Honorable Minister, ICT.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and the honorable members. Last week, the Right Honorable Prime Minister communicated to this House that we shall receive a statement on the status, the quality of telecommunication in the country. And I am here to give that information paper to the House. And thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for according us the time on the order paper. I want to acknowledge the presence of the Executive Director, UCC, Engineer Irene Kagwa, who is seated there. So this is a statement on the status of the quality of communication services in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the Uganda Communications Act of 2013 seeks, among others, promote and safeguard the interests of consumers and operators as regards the quality of communication services and equipment in Uganda. Quality of service from the user perspective is defined as the collective effect of service performances which determine the degree of satisfaction of a user of a service. This covers factors such as network coverage, whether the subscriber can make a call on the network, mobile internet availability, connection speeds, and delays while browsing the web and transferring files over the internet. Right Honorable Speaker, it is noteworthy that the quality of service may differ with time at the same location or at different locations within the same timestamp across the same network. The quality of service performance of an operator in a particular location at a particular time is typically impacted by a range of technical factors, including the following: in-network and out-of-network issues. 1, infrastructure coverage. 2, the strength of the network signal, which is critical for communication between the user's device, phone, and base station due to the network design. The third factor is the level of radio emissions from the other sources or networks or from within the network, which can cause interference to the signal between the phone and the base station. And also the capacity at the base station to support the desired operations or demand in the respective locality. In other words, congestion, if there is congestion. Reliability of electricity supply is another factor which affects quality, and also quality of end user devices. For instance, the quality of the phone that one uses determines the quality of service also. Monitoring the quality of service. The quality of service in Uganda is monitored by a regulator, that's UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, through independent tests which are conducted by the regulator, but also monitoring is done through reports that are submitted by the operators and also the feedback from consumers. In this respect, an annual technical survey was carried out in the period from September 2020 to October 2020, covering 24 towns across the country. And the towns considered were Gulu, Mbarara, Mbale, Masindi, Arua, Kabale, Iganga, Hoima, Lira, Ntungamo, Jinja, Fort Poto, Soroti, Masaka, Kamuli, Mityana, Oyam, Mayuge, Kampala, Kotido, Mubende, Tororo, Mukono, and Entebbe. And the survey reviewed the quality of service of Africell Uganda Limited, Airtel Uganda Limited, MTN Uganda Limited, Uganda Telecom Limited, UTL, Smile Communications Uganda Limited, and Tangerine Uganda Limited. and a summary of the findings is available in Annex 1, which is attached to this report. And this statement has been uploaded on our iPads. This performance assessment covered blocked call rates equal to or below 2%, and dropped call rates equal to or below 2%. In the case of voice services, while the download throughout in the case of data services. Notably, the lockdown period due to the implementation of mitigation measures to curb the COVID-19 pandemic in Uganda was also associated with internet-related complaints, especially relating to low connection or data speeds. Some of the factors observed to affect quality of service in Uganda include: one, limited coverage. The communication network infrastructure is available mainly in urban areas and is limited in rural areas. This implies that there are areas that are scantily or not covered by the operators' networks. For instance, recently I was in Toroko, and the woman member of parliament raised a complaint that in many parts of Toroko they don't pick either MTN or Airtel and most of these telecoms. So persons in these areas are not able to access the telecommunication services, or if the services are accessible, the quality is compromised due to the resultant weak network signal. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, under the new licensing regime which we put in place as a sector, the licensees have been obliged to ensure that their respective networks extend to and services are available in at least 90% of the respective licensed geographical area within 5 years of grant of a license. Meaning that for you to acquire now a license, we give you a condition that within 5 years, you must cover at least 90% of the area, not for you to be licensed to cover a geographical area, and then you find you are just serving 10% or 20%. It's now a requirement as the licensing condition. These are to be complemented by interventions by the government through mechanisms such as the Uganda Communications Universal Access and Service Fund under the Uganda Communications Commission towards 100% national coverage. In other words, in situations where these operators may not be able to give us sufficient coverage, government through the Universal Access and Service Fund managed by UCC, we can come to the rescue of that community by maybe raising towers or supporting that community to get network. Signal interference. Signal degradation caused by interference from other radio communication sources, such as the illegally installed signal boosters, has been observed to be prevalent. These unauthorized boosters amplify the radio signal noise, causing signal interference to mobile networks of duly licensed network operators, and this affecting the quality of service. A public warning against the sale, installation, and use of signal boosters without prior authorization from Uganda Communications Commission has been issued. And enforcement against this is also underway in a collaborative exercise. Right, Honorable Speaker, there is a tendency by Ugandans to put investments on ground, say radios. Somebody goes, buys equipment, and sets up radio infrastructure, and even tests it, and then it comes to UCC to seek for a license. And then you find there is a challenge. The correct procedure is you first engage with UCC to get a license and authorization for you to establish a radio, for instance, and the same for the other communication facilities. So you find somebody establishes this facility and interferes with what is existing, and this also compromises the quality of some of the services that we provide. And therefore, we want to issue that guidance that if you want to invest in these communication services, you are required to first engage with UCC, get the necessary approvals because they are technical. They will guide on how to establish some of these services. Otherwise, if you start without authorization and concurrence, then you may cause interference and be responsible for substandard quality because of that unapproved installations. Substandard devices. Substandard devices do impact the user's quality of service because the manufacturing of these compromises on the conformity, some of the relevant standards to minimize cost, thus affecting their ability, for example, the decipher a fair signal in the presence of noise from other radio sources. Again, it is important that when you are buying equipment, you get technical advice so that the experts in UCC can help you and guide you on what kind of equipment would be suitable for that kind of communication facility that you are establishing. But most often you find people just buy equipment, some of which may be substandard, and then you find it affects the quality of the services which we provide. Type approval of communications equipment and apparatus by the Uganda Communications Commission is required by law prior to importation, sale, installation, and use of such in Uganda. And this is conducted to ensure conformity of the equipment and devices with the respective industry and national communication standards. This function is being complemented with measures implemented in collaboration with other government agencies to bar the continued importation and use of such devices in Uganda. And therefore, we advise Ugandans to follow the law. Otherwise, you might put money in equipment and apparatus which will be declared substandard by UCC when you have already spent money, and therefore we need to follow the law, get support from the technical services of UCC before we can import and install most of these communication equipment. I also want to comment on refusal to set up masts. Communities are commonly objecting to establishment of masts within their neighborhoods due to concerns about health and safety effects of masts. This is impacting the grant of construction authorization by the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, to telecom operators to set up the requisite infrastructure in the vicinity of such communities. However, a base station is required to provide network coverage to people using cell phones in its specific surrounding geographical area. The closer a base station mounted on a mast is to the mobile phone user, the stronger the signal from the base station, and thus the better the quality of communication. NEMA and Uganda Communications Commission are working jointly to sensitize the masses that the masts in Uganda are within the recommended international health levels and thus do not pose a risk to their health, but that they are required to facilitate improvement of network coverage and capacity of networks in their community. Let me make a comment, Right Honorable Speaker, on this. There is fear in the public, and people think that if you are near a mast, then you are at a risk of contracting illness, including cancer. But the technical information is that the radio frequency electromagnetic radiation which is emitted by these masts is weak to the extent that it cannot damage the DNA of a living cell. And studies, because the radiation is non-ionizing, in other words, it cannot cause an effect on an atom or a molecule by removing an electron. If you remove your basic science, if you remember your basic science. And therefore, the radiation from these masts does not injure the DNA, the smallest genetic unit of a living cell. And studies have been done across, and there is no evidence to show that the masts which we use, even if we upgrade technology from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G, there is no evidence whatsoever that these masts can actually create a risk of getting cancer or any other illnesses. And therefore, there is no justification for Ugandans to fear allowing masks to be put. Yes, I am speaking authoritatively on that subject. But the Right Honorable Speaker, there is a fear in the public. People fear the masks, but there is no evidence. And you can check, there is a lot of documentation on these areas. So we would like to advise the public that the government of Uganda cannot in any way allow installation of equipment or any other communication gadgets which would pose risks to Ugandans or any person. But it's a fear across the world. You recall when COVID-19 started in China, even in the UK, people started destroying the 5G masts, thinking that COVID-19 was due to 5G technology, but there is no evidence to that effect, because now we know how COVID-19 is caused. But the UCC and the NEMA and the government and the Ministry of Health shall continue to sensitize the public not to have those fears about the telecommunications masts and towers which we are mounting to extend this communication service. Insufficient network capacities, especially in the busy locations in the towns and during the lockdown, residential areas that experienced an unusual influx of a large number of people or usage outside of the focus, all these contributed to network capacity and efficiency in the communication area. This constrains the available network resources, resulting in experiences such as blocked call attempts, dropped calls, and low speeds in the case of data. Due to the difficulty in obtaining time authorization to establish additional masts, the market players resorted to availing alternative internet connection technologies, such as fiber to the premises to offload some of the traffic and alleviate congestion challenges, thus delivering better quality services to the consumers. But let me also add, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance is working out interventions, and we shall soon come to the House for support to address the question of connectivity so that we cover the whole country by laying the national backbone infrastructure to cover the rest of the country, which is not yet covered, and also address what we call last mile connections, so that all districts, all health facilities, all schools, and government infrastructure can be connected to these internet services. And this has become more urgent in the wake of COVID-19, where we've been announcing lockdowns and our children are at home and people resort to e-trading, and therefore we need the broadband, we need the connectivity in the outer parts of this country. The other factors, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, are that objects in the environment, such as trees, hills, and buildings, can have an effect on the coverage area because they block the signal between the base station and the phone. And for those of us who come from mountainous areas, we know that depending on whether you are on the other side of the mast or in the shadow area, there is interference with access to this network and communication services. In addition, spectrum is a finite resource, and thus it is limited. It's a limited natural resource required by all forms of wireless communication. This is very important because many of us run to UCC to request for frequencies. And you know, there have been limitations in terms of giving frequencies for radios. The reason is that spectrum is a finite resource which has to be shared. And that's why UCC, if for instance, your area is already covered by radios, there may not be space for additional radio to be licensed because this spectrum is not infinite. And Ugandans need to appreciate that science. The frequencies of the radio spectrum themselves do have different propagation characteristics, with lower frequencies able to travel further and penetrate windows and walls, while higher frequencies increase capacity and are more commonly used to offer high-speed services. In Uganda, majority of communication subscribers are still using basic phones that operate on the less spectral efficient 2G technology, which is largely carried on the lower frequencies. And this impacts the optimization of the frequencies for the provision of the more spectral efficient 3G and 4G technologies accessible only with smartphones. And this, I can say, we've been upgrading the technologies. I think now we are at 4G. I know there are applications for us to consider upgrading it to 5G, and this definitely will improve our capacity to communicate well, but also it requires that we upgrade the devices, the type of phones, for instance, which we use if we are to communicate by voice. As a result, there is poor indoor coverage in premises such as arcades, storage buildings, and some building basements due to failure of the radio signal to penetrate concrete walls of these buildings, hence affecting the quality of service and customer experience within these facilities. Additionally, when new buildings are erected, these block mobile signal propagation and affect penetration of the signal. And that's why the physical planners need to work with the UCC so that as buildings are planned, the issue of communication is also accommodated as the physical planning is being done. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, in conclusion, in line with the digital transformation program of the NDP3 and the objectives of the National Broadband Policy of 2018, the ICT sector has prioritized inclusive access to quality communication services required for us as a country to benefit from the developments and opportunities that ICTs present to the development of our country and our citizenry. We are thus focused on improving coverage and addressing in a whole of government approach the other bottlenecks affecting the quality of services while holding the operators accountable in line with the provisions of the recently adopted Uganda Communications Quality of Service Regulations. And let me say that one of the issues in the country is the cost of internet. We've been bringing down the cost of internet. In the last few years, it has dropped from $1,200 per megabyte per second to currently $70. We have already instructed NITAU, the National Information Technology Authority of Uganda, to work around the clock and address factors responsible for the high cost, and in the immediate term, bring the cost to $30, and eventually we bring it $10 per megabyte per second, which is the international benchmark. So in the next few months, it should be able to drop from 70 to 30, and we are working on the issue. We call upon all members of the 11th Parliament to support the sector of information and communications technology in the realization of this quest, especially the fight against misinformation that is hindering the spread of infrastructure and facilitating the ownership by our populace of internet-enabled devices rather than using the old technology of 2G. And let me also add, as I conclude my statement, that one of the challenges we have at our times is the expansion of the media space, which has included social media, which social media we should be using for positive communication, but there is a lot of abuse of the social media space, and we shall be coming up with relevant legislations to regulate social media so that we can use all these platforms for positive communication and for socio-economic transformation. I thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, for listening to our information paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Ekanya Geoffrey, Toro County North. Honorable Speaker, I've known you as a person who meets standard and quality. I've checked on the encyclopedia the purpose and objective of a statement by the minister in the Commonwealth. I find the statement by Honorable Chris, the minister in charge of ICT, not meeting any of this required standard. The minister seems to be supporting the service provider against the interest of the consumers of Uganda. And therefore, I'm seeking for your guidance that isn't it proper for the minister to be sent back so that he prepares a comprehensive statement, attach the license requirement, to what extent has all these companies fulfilled the requirement of terms and conditions of the license since they were set up here. For example, MTN, Airtel, and all these companies, instead of blaming consumers. It is the same ministry, Honorable Speaker, who's supposed to regulate all importers of equipment in this country, using other government institutions like UNPS and others. And therefore, I find this statement really not meeting the quality and the character of Dr. Chris that I've known over time. And therefore, seek for your indulgence that the minister be sent back to present a comprehensive statement, the cost recovery. Honorable Speaker, Ugandans are losing money every time they make calls.
Procedure, the point of procedure.
And therefore, I'm seeking through you, Honorable Speaker, that isn't it procedure proper for the minister to be sent back to present a comprehensive statement next time.
Can I guide on this, honorable member? I see you standing up already. Honorable members, the honorable member for Tororo County North. I've not seen him in the house for a while. And instead of waiting for me to open the debate so that he debates, we decide to debate through procedure. Honorable member, that is a matter of opinion as to whether the minister's statement does not meet standards. That's a matter of opinion. I cannot be engaged in that debate. I'll take that as a debate to inform the minister so that the minister can respond appropriately when he stands up to respond. Honorable members, Rule 52 allows us a debate on this matter, and debate starts now, but going by the numbers again. And in view of the fact that we have Prime Minister's question time, I'll start from Rushenyi, 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and allow me to thank the Minister for ICT for giving us some highlights, although he did not exhaust it as maybe my colleague had asked. But nevertheless, we thank him for bringing us this statement. Mr. Speaker, in COVID-19, it came when all of us were not aware and many of the things we did not know what to do. I would have thought that this is the time that we learn that COVID is likely even to stay and maybe think of how shall our people in deep rural areas continue to study. Those in primary and secondary, even the university level. Some universities have been trying to go online, but it's still difficult because deep in the villages, they cannot access the internet just because of the network. It's good that he mentioned the network, Mr. Speaker. When I'm in my constituency, I cannot, because some of us who stay in areas where there are hills and mountains, and he also, when I talk this, he knows in Kanungu, the terrain is the same as Rusheni. You cannot talk to people at this era of this century. Uganda, you are in a certain area and you are cut off completely. We've been trying to check. We use our own means to go to these service providers. But of course, they are looking at making money. They do. So may you, Honorable Chris Vadiomuns, you are there. Can you help us so that this network can be accessed? You talked of the signals, the radio signals interfering, and some people also setting up those radios. They do it because of what happens. You also check what happens in your docket there. The money that people ask for licensing a frequency is just too much that cannot be managed. And you say that some frequencies cannot be given. I want to tell you that some people are hoarding. Ugandans know how to make deals. They are hoarding licenses. They are hoarding frequencies. When you go and you pay some money.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm happy to speak on this subject because this is an area where I can also speak with authority. Right Honorable Speaker, before I became a politician, I worked in the telecoms for about 10 years of my professional experience. And therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, this is an area I appreciate very well. I want to thank the Minister for the statement, but there are some few observations. Some of these things may be invisible, but very significant. Right Honorable Speaker, the telecoms have changed their mode of operation. They have now taken a decision to outsource their network maintenance services. And the effect of this is that there is a lot of externalization of labor. Right now, we have networks in Uganda, but nobody knows where they are being maintained from. And for purposes of Uganda, I'm very much aware that our networks are being managed from China. So Right Honorable Speaker, some of these quality of services we are talking about are very bad because the people who are supposed to respond to network failures, we have a big time difference. There will be a network shutdown in Uganda, but the person who is supposed to maintain this is sleeping in China because the time is ahead. So, and the Right Honorable Speaker, this one also comes with a big security. Some time back, we witnessed situations where big people's phone numbers were being hacked and they were sending us messages. You can imagine where you receive a message from the Right Honorable Speaker's phone requesting a member for support. It is because somebody who is maintaining this network has the capacity to configure, to make any configuration in this network, and because he's doing it outside the country, it's not easy to track this. So Right Honorable Speaker, it is a big risk
to have our networks externalized. Other countries like Rwanda and Tanzania have totally rejected this model, but in Uganda, we have maintained it. Right, Honorable Speaker, the other issue I want to talk about is that there is a broadband policy which the minister has talked about briefly, but this policy came up in 2018, and it was providing for simple things which would help us to solve problems like people are raising about network coverage. It was providing for things like number portability. It was providing things for in-country roaming.
Do I give him more time? Don't remember?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and members, for pleading for me. Now, when we talk of number portability and in-country roaming, you remember, honorable members, if you travel from here to any other part of the country, you can still make a call back home using your very own number. But in Uganda, it is not possible. If I move, say, to Karamoja and I have an Airtel line, when there is no Airtel network, it means there could be MTN network, but I'm not able to use it, even when I'm within Uganda. So this broadband policy was providing for such gaps, but the minister has really remained silent about these issues, and we do not know what you are planning. Lastly, about the quality of services, network has KPIs, key performance indicators, like you have put in your graphs. We have seen some operators have actually, they are not fulfilling the international requirements and satisfaction criteria as in the graphs you have shown. But in Uganda, we have never had where UCC, our regulator, you are doing well, but we have not had where you have come out hard to penalize these network operators. It is us, the consumers, who bear the costs. There are so many dropped calls, there are many silent calls, but whenever they happen, it is the user that is bearing the cost, and the network operators are just shielded. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to request UCC to come out and bite and penalize these operators so that they recognize that us consumers will have a stake in this business. I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. Is that honorable? Yes. Yes, honorable. From Nakasongola, I think. These masks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for according me this opportunity to discuss about the status of communication in Uganda. I want to thank the Minister for ICT, Honorable Baryomunsi, for giving us information as far as communication is concerned in this country. Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to say something about frequencies. Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to inform this House that there are radios in Uganda which share frequencies. I want to give an example. Government of Uganda owns UBC radios in this country. And of course, when you go to Nakasongola, Fort Portal, and some other areas, those radios are there. But there is UBC Bururi, Nakasongola, shares a frequency with Salt FM. There's an interference in the frequency. The people of Nakasongola want to listen to their language, want to listen to their presenters, want to get information in the language they understand better. But when they switch, they go to Salt. There is that competition. Honorable Minister, I want to urge that let that problem be solved so that we don't have interferences. Right, Honorable Speaker, there is also another issue. UBC Bururi is a government entity. UBC Bururi Nakasongola is a government entity. UTL is a government entity. Some 2 weeks back, Honorable Baryomunsi, the Minister for ICT can bear witness, UTL disconnected UBC Bururi for 2 weeks. I called the UBC manager, main branch. He said, can you please help the people of Nakasongola and reconnect the radio? He was not bothered. Until I wrote a letter to the Minister for ICT. I want to thank you, Honorable Baryomunsi, for being a pro-people. That's why the president is giving us these good ministers of ours who are now handling our issues very well. I want to thank him. When I wrote a letter to him and I went to him and we discussed, within a minute, the radio was put back on air. But there is a problem. Right, Honorable Speaker, these government radios of ours, in some areas, they are in rented premises. When you go to Nakasongola, that radio is in somebody's house. One day, one time, we shall be forced out from that house. What will happen? It will be a shame to government. That government of Uganda, the radio for government has been forced out of the building. I want to urge government that as we go to put government facilities, for example, radios we are talking about, let us construct, as we've constructed in some other areas, please construct also so that those government radios are housed in our buildings. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, as my sister Honorable Kawasharira,
I think if we continue along those lines, the members will be limited. So can I have the honorable member?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. For record purposes, my name is Namanya Naboth, and I represent people of Rubabo constituency in Rukunjiri district. Honorable Minister, I thank you very much. But Honorable Minister, we have had an issue with Facebook closure. And in your report, you didn't articulate well the fate of Facebook. It is of late that people have tried to maneuver the way they can be on Facebook, and in that regard, therefore, people have both avoided tax and evaded tax. Honorable Minister, you did not articulate on that point. Similarly, Right Honorable Speaker, we are in a period where we are told even to be in Parliament on Zoom. We have encouraged students to study online. But Honorable Speaker, I'm wondering how somebody procures data and within a minute they tell you the data has expired. So I'm not understanding, when was it manufactured? What is the shelf life that internet should stay, and within no minute and they tell you your internet has expired? Honorable Minister, we need a clarification on that in this era where we have a problem. Likewise, phone calls. You have minutes on the phone. The following day, you wake up to make a phone call and you can't communicate. For us who come from Chigevwa, which is mountainous, we have faced problem, especially when you are there, Honorable Speaker. In Chigevwa sub-region, many of us, we are not following what is happening within Parliament as within Uganda. It's like we are in a different country where we cannot be connected to the rest of Uganda. Honorable Minister, we need you to clarify. There are mountainous areas, whether you believe or not, that he agreed. I come from Rukunjiri. Once you are on this side of the hill, you can't know. Once you are on this side, you can't know. Honorable Minister, please clarify, and when you get the microphone, tell Ugandans, people of Chigevwa, how would equally benefit from the communication within Uganda. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bakatonda.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for according me this opportunity. I thank the Honorable Minister for the presentation. Honorable Minister, I think we require to do some more work here. Regarding the content, so on radios, not educative at all. Regarding on the charges, and a lot of things. So I would advise that let's fast track and benchmark on these media houses and services. For example, what should be the best standard of a media house? And what are the regulators doing? Because I think the challenge is on the continent. One time I was reading that one of the head of states had to board a chopper to go to a neighboring country in order to communicate on internet. But I think this is a key driver for development, Honorable Minister. E-marketing. Now you find that even when there's a lockdown on schools, villages can't actually manage to use this internet. My research shows that at least maybe 5%. And yet, we are supposed to look at the Human Development Index, where service delivery using this intranet media houses can be actually key. I think let's design a questionnaire such that we can gather information and then come out with the best. I thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Member for Okoro, Mukono. No. Yes, Lira West.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to make a contribution on the presentation made by the Minister. Right Honorable Speaker and members, for the record, my name is Vincent Obong, Lira West. I stand to bring on board the concerns that I got from my voters about how they are being treated by some of these communication companies. I have been getting this report for a long time, very long time, but I've been sitting down to monitor that situation. Until on the 15th of this month, when I became a victim, that was the time I realized that these complaints were really very genuine complaints. Right Honorable Speaker, on that day, 15th of September, I had my mobile money balance of 100,904 shillings. I wanted to make a contribution for a burial which was taking place in my constituency. I had to deposit more money on the account. But when I sent 110,000, instead of having the balance that I was expecting to have, I realized that the money which was deducted was more than what I sent. So I had to do my calculations. After doing that, Right Honorable Speaker and members, I realized that 15,550 more was deducted without being accounted for on my mobile money. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, the matter may sound as something very small, but I want us to imagine this, that how many subscribers do we have in Uganda? If they are picking money from these subscribers and they are not accounting for at the end of the day, don't you think these telephone companies would be taking free money from our voters without accounting for? I want to put the minister on notice on this, that we need to make a follow-up on this so that we make a follow-up on how we are being treated. Number two, most of these telephone companies, when they are doing their billing, they do the billing on a minute basis. But we are in a situation where somebody who has struggled to get some money like 500,000 or 1,000 shillings and has bought some minutes, but each time you talk like just for 30 seconds, a minute is deducted. And this is a big concern that we.
Bukoto Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the ICT Minister for the statement. One, I would like to re-echo the colleagues' issue on frequency holding. Right, Honorable Minister, there are people that got these frequencies and are not using them. You go to UCC to get a frequency in a particular wavelength, and then UCC can provide it. They are not using them, and they are not ready to surrender them unless you pay them a lot of money. Secondly, is on the mobile phone feedback. Our voters have these small phones. Sometimes they call them cartouche. Really, these small phones for buttons. As they are calling us, you get a very rude feedback. Very rude feedback. And all these phones go through, you know, they are imported and brought in after being checked by your people. I wonder whether you're regulating the phone gadgets that are coming in. 3, internet is a right in many countries. It's only in Uganda that internet is being, charged. But with the right to information, very many countries have decided that internet is the right, people can access information anytime. I would like to learn from you to clarify how far you are with free internet. I want to re-echo feedback. I want to re-echo similar content. Radios, TVs, especially TV stations, mainly on these DSTVs and the rest. You find that their stations are, bringing in the same content, and yet they are charging Ugandans for it. Same content all the time. And the ICT centers, Chana Mukaka, if you don't buy a computer, then there's nobody that will learn computer in Chana Mukaka. It is important that we create an ICT center in such places, at sub-county levels, such that people, before, as we grow up in the 2000s and early 2000s, we are going to internet cafes. It is okay for government to create an internet cafe at the sub-county, such that people can, can access internet. Then the compensations, these telecom companies leased some particular, land to put their masts, and during this time when it is, it has elapsed, when they come back, they either pay less or they delay to pay the landowners, and then we have feedback on that. The other is what my colleague echoed about taking off money unknowingly. But then we are hearing that there is another thing coming up where.
Thank you very much. I love Bukoli Highland. Chigevwa, the Roman municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable. For record purpose, Okeyo Peter, representing Bukoli Islands. I want to thank the Minister for the statement, but Honorable Minister, we have a problem in Bukoli Islands. You find that the government of Uganda installed URA service centers on Hama Islands and Sugulu Islands, where taxpayers could go, they are assessed and they pay. But you find that there is always no network. And you find that a taxpayer is supposed to pay 50,000, he has been assessed to pay 50,000, but because of failure of network, he is told to move to the nearest URA point, which is Busia. This is a person going to pay a tax of 50, but is going to spend about 30,000 to pay the 50 in terms of transport. Come to Hama Islands. We are now going for studies because they close schools and we have to study via radio, TV. All our pupils in the islands have not got this chance because they cannot access radio, they cannot access UBC, they cannot access even internet. What plans do you have as a ministry to extend network masks to these islands? You find that most of us have now resorted to Safaricom. We have to use Safaricom, which is from the neighboring country. And this is also posing a security risk because sometimes when our people go to the lake, they have their phones, and in case there is a robbery, they cannot communicate to the security personnel, either the Marine Police or the UPDF Marine. What plans do you have for the islands? And it cuts across all the islands in Lake Victoria. You go to Bumba Islands in Vunya South, it's the same. You go to Lolwe Islands, it's the same. As you move even to Liavana in Vuvuma, there's a problem of network. What are you going to help these Ugandans? How are you going to help these Ugandans
Information.
to access network?
Information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honorable, please,
for giving way.
Honorable, please, would you like to return the microphone? You accessed it before you are allowed.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
You are done? Okay. Chigevwa?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank Dr. Chris Wariomonsi for the elaborate presentation. But Right Honorable Speaker, I would like at this juncture to inform the Minister for ICT that Chigevwa district is the first and most probably the only district that runs a radio in the whole country. It is Chigevwa Community Radio. Right Honorable Speaker, we got a license, and this radio has operated for the last 9 years, but UCC has failed to renew our license, giving us very tough requirements, including that all the workers on that radio must have registered with Media Council and all that and qualifications, when actually we are trying to provide employment, and that being a radio that is run by the district, UCC would be assisting us the very same way they assist the other government radios. Right Honorable Speaker, we would like to request the Minister to tell the technical people to renew our license. Secondly, to widen our network and every area of coverage, to assist us to meet the required standards so that the district continues to serve the people. Right Honorable Speaker, we in Chigevwa, we are told to use the radios in Kabarole and Fort Poto for learning of children and students, which radios don't even reach Chigevwa district. And therefore, with this community radio, which is not actually for profit, we have decided to do our own tailored learning so that our children can continue to learn. So we would want to be supported that with the support that government renders to the government radios for efficient operations and for our children to learn. And also, Right Honorable Speaker, we are a community radio that runs not for profit, but for the very little levies that we make, it is for maintaining this radio so that we don't constrain the district budget, which is actually inadequate. Right Honorable Speaker, we request for capacity building for the workers on this radio, and we invite the Minister with your technical staff to come to Chigevwa and see how Chigevwa people are generous, that they can even donate a radio to the government. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now have Oyam Kilak, Abach Municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable, I want to thank the Minister for giving this statement, but I have some areas of clarifications. Honorable Minister, you have told us about the technical survey done in the period of September 2020 to October 2020, covering major towns and not all towns. So I would like to get from you or to know from you, when are you reaching the rural areas, which you have also acknowledged that they are not covered and they have very weak networks. Right Honorable Speaker, there are very many areas, for example, in my district. I've written very many times to UCC to come and really help my people in my district to get connectivity, but up to now, we have not seen. Even when the minister promised on the floor of this parliament, we have not seen the UCC coming to give us the network that we need. Then two, you mentioned that you are soon coming before parliament. I thought you should have come even yesterday, because in this era of COVID, we have so many students in rural areas who cannot access network connectivity. So when are you coming before parliament? Then, Right Honorable Speaker, I thought this statement by the minister is lacking. And I don't know whether it will not be good for the committee also to look into this, because there is a lot of issues. For example, the security of IT. Are you training experts, security experts, to handle the issues of hacking? Are you training security experts to handle what the foreign service providers are handling. Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I also want to know from the minister the issue of cybercrime, which is very rampant. What are you doing about that? Thank you.
Luck.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for the report. Honorable Minister, I would like to seek clarification. When you are explaining about the distance of human settlement to the mosque, when they are installing mosque in my area, community were advised never to settle near the mosque for about 500 meters, especially those on the grass touch. So when you are explaining, I did not get you clearly the impact and the effects of mosque near human settlement. Two, Honorable Minister, right now, some 5 years ago, you have introduced what is called free-to-air decoder for television sets. And free-to-air decoders remains only within Kampala. I remember the other minister explained that government is in the process of extending to other parts of the country, northern Uganda, eastern and other parts of Uganda. But right now, only people of Kampala are enjoying free-to-air televisions. It means they are watching television free of charge. But those ones in northern Uganda, eastern Uganda are paying for televisions. You must pay for DSTV, you must pay for StarTime, Zuko, and any other GoTV among others. Therefore, Honorable Minister, you need to tell us what is the government plan of extending free-to-air services to other parts of the country. Three, as my colleague alluded, Honorable Minister, right now, for members to access Facebook, you must go through VPN. All those ones who are using Facebook, you must go through VPN. Without that, you will never access Facebook. Honorable Minister, you need to explain why is that so. Finally, about the control of network at the border point. Honorable Minister, some of us who come from the border post, the border points, the moment you are in the border, your network changes automatically to the other country. And we have no control completely. People who are living at the border point are getting difficulties in communication. I do not know how government is controlling our network within our territories. That's not to interfere. And finally, there are many areas in Uganda without network coverage. For example, for me, when I'm in Amoro, in other places, I am totally locked because we have no network communication.
Information.
Honorable, yes, member for Apache, Honorable Chan, then I come this way.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I appreciate the Minister for the statement on the status of quality of communication services in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, my concern is in respect to Africell Uganda. Currently, Africell is one of the preferred service provider for internet used by many companies and developers in Uganda. However, recently, there are statements from the directors informing clients to switch to alternative service providers because they're going to close effective October 7th this year. And Right Honorable Speaker, we are aware that Africell bought stakes from Orange Uganda. And in 2019, having recorded a debt portfolio of about 250 billion shillings and a net loss of 1.5 trillion after acquiring the stakes. They are closing because most of the burden was inherited from Orange. But being the most preferred service provider, I want to know from the minister if there was any attempt by government to save this company from closure. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, this communication sector is a very critical sector in the economy. I expected not only the technical briefs in this statement, I expected the impacts on socio-economic status, the status on the status of the sector on socio-economic impacts of the economy. I expected to see a reflection of how
the sector contributes to the employment in Uganda, how they contribute to GDP and other aspects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now come this side and start with the Tororo Municipality, Ruchiga, Agago, Agule.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I come from Tororo. I think a member has already alluded to this fact. When you are in Tororo, as if you are in Kenya, the waves, the radio waves that are interfered with. So I don't know how we shall overcome that. Coming to the mobile phones, our code, you get a different code, which is not even Ugandan code. And definitely you are not going to receive any information or send any information correctly. So it is alarming. So I don't know how UCC, they come out with to solve this challenge, which is a very serious issue within the border point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ruchiga District.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am Ogwari Polycarp, a member of Parliament.
Ruchiga District.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Allow me to thank the Minister for the statement. Right Honorable Speaker, we have a problem, us especially who are from borders. Ruchiga District, we are neighboring Rwanda. And we've been having this problem for a long time. I've got one sub-county in Ruchiga, that is Kamwezi sub-county. The moment you step in Kamwezi, they charge you 2,200 to make a call. And it's been going on. I think I've been writing letters. Now that the minister is here, I want you at least to see how you can help border districts, especially Ruchiga, Kamwezi sub-county, where you can't even make a call. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Agago. Then I go to Agule. Agago.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. For record purpose, my name is Okot John Amos from Agago, North County. I want to thank the Minister for the report and because he has given us opportunity to talk about the plight we are facing regarding communication. Information is a necessity now. You cannot reach anywhere unless you get a media where you can communicate what you want. Mr. Minister, you spoke widely about the network coverage. In my area, we have insecurity. And because of that, it is only through communication that helps us to coordinate with security people and the people who would come to help us to the rescue. A place like Lapono, you go to Mia, Pachua, Paimol, Parabontek, Atut, you have to write those places because you said you did the survey, but those areas you never reach. I am trying to bring this to your attention, Mr. Minister, because this is a constitutional right. And it is only you that can help us to salvage this problem. Number two, the government is saying ICT is one of the sectors they are focusing so much into it. But to enhance the skills and knowledge to that effect, our students have to learn and to learn a lot regarding those issues. I want to find out from you, who is in charge of putting computers to schools? Is it your department or it goes to Ministry of Education? Because some few days ago, I was interacting with Dr. Moyingo, Honorable, and was trying to refer me to go to UCC. Maybe you have to help because in my area, many schools are lacking just kind of thing.
Another point that I want to raise to you is about airtime, the cost of using airtime. These days, many people are resorted to buy new SIM card because your old SIM card, when you are using, the way MTN charges you, it is higher than those new ones. To the extent that you find people start to buy new SIM card so that the cost could a little bit be lower. Maybe you have to find out this nitty-gritty of those issues. Because in a way, it is like people are paying a lot of money. I've also experienced it. At first, I was putting a bundle of 30,000. Shortly, they increased to 35. Later, they went to 50, to the extent that even the bundles that you put doesn't last long. It goes. 1 minute, if you can allow me, just a minute.
Agule County.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am Ogwari Polycarp from Agule County, Member of Parliament. The Honorable Minister, I would actually also support my Honorable colleague Ekanya, that if it was allowed, you would go for more research for the right information. Honorable Minister, when you look at it, the network itself, if I can give you an example in Palisa, you can be in Palisa town, but some places you can't access the communication, no network. In my county, Agule County, it's divided into 3. There is a sub-county called Chelekora. You can never get a network in both Airtel and MTN, unless otherwise you drive a distance nearer the town. A next thing that I would love to tell Honorable Minister is that UBC is a radio for the government, but we are getting worried the way it is operating. When you go to Palisa, I always use a phone, but they say we first have to switch off the side of Palisa so that you in Agule will be heard properly. Now, my question is, we used to have our machines in Butebu, and the government picked those machines, took them where? Because when the machines were in Butebu, we could have enough communication, clear communication in Butebu. But right now, as we talk, it is a problem on UBC. So Honorable Minister, do for us a research and find it out where did our machines go, which the government put in Butebu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Unfortunately, the time is up. Unfortunately, it is 1 hour, and now I have to call the shadow minister of the sector, and then I ask the minister to respond. So we go to Prime Minister's question time. Shadow minister, if there's no shadow minister, I go to the minister. No, he's not the shadow minister, is he?
No, I'm ably representing the shadow minister. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the minister for the statement, but I will commence with a probing question to the minister, because in his statement, he has clearly stated that he attributes the interference, the signal interference, to illegally constructed or installed boosters. And I want to believe him, but I would want to ask fundamental question. Because in border districts like Ruda, like the one that was mentioned at the island, we have a roaming Safaricom, which does not, even it breaks those obstacles you have mentioned in your statement. You say that there are objects in the environment like hills, and of course the terrain like that of Ruda, which is mountainous. You find that we even hardly have network. We cannot access telecom networks like that of AfriCell, even MTN. But Safaricom roams around and it is accessible easily by all. So we wonder, what technology are they using that we are lacking? Are we in the other old technology you mentioned in your statement of 2G? because this Safaricom roams in geographical coverage areas which are far beyond what is supposed to be. The UCC should have done us a favor as a constitutional body, because you conducted a benchmark measurement on the telecom operators, and you know the best and the worst. You should have named the best and the worst, because if Africell, for instance, was the worst performer because of even lacking accessibility in places like Mbale or Duda, it should be named. But also the newly adopted regulations are very good. In the provisions, there is, you can slap these telecom companies with fines. And I don't know whether you are enforcing compliance by ensuring that these laws or other regulations which could punish, so that you regulate and ensure that there is a quality of service to the consumer or the user. Lastly, they must, Mr. Speaker, there are theories, whether they are conspiracy theories, and they are numerous, that in some of settlements where these musts are, women normally experience miscarriages or stillbirth. Yes, so as a ministry, you should interest yourself. By the way, the ministry should have even done some benchmarking. Because why is it that if you go to countries like Kenya, those musts are constructed far away from settlements? They are far, not within the proximity of settlements. So that could be the reason, because the science is not yet investigated to the dot. Investigations are still on. These theories which we receive ought to be put to rest with the further investigations. So we could give some of the theories a benefit of doubt and ensure that these masts are constructed far away from where the people have settled. Otherwise, I thank you.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, briefly, please group the issues and.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and the honorable members. And I want to appreciate all the comments that have been raised. I may not respond to each and every issue, but we have taken note of the concerns. Let me clarify that the Right Honorable Prime Minister, while announcing the legislative agenda of the current week, said we shall bring a statement on the quality of telecommunication services. So I was required to write a statement in that regard. Otherwise, I have capacity to write a comprehensive statement which covers everything. And therefore, in light of that, I prepared this statement to generate debate from the members so that we pick the issues as a ministry, and we act on them. So, Honorable Kanya, that was the context in which this statement was brought. But as a ministry, we can always bring additional statements covering a broad range of issues, because there are many issues definitely which are not captured in this statement. But we appreciate the concerns, the comments, and we have taken note of all these issues. Our desire as a ministry is to ensure that we serve all Ugandans and that all your constituencies and the communities are served. The Honorable Kabashalira raised the issues. I said we shall soon come to Parliament. We are working out a project to expand the connectivity. We have been laying the national backbone infrastructure, and we have done 4 phases, and they have been approved by this House previously. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and we are now preparing phase 5, where we shall do the last extensions and last mile extensions, which will address most of the concerns raised by the honorable members. What we shall do as a ministry, we shall work with you and maybe prepare a form and request each member to tell us the challenges in terms of network, so that as we design this, we make sure that where there are gaps, we capture them, because there are provisions in this project to support additional masts and towers in the different parts of the country, so that we improve network and connectivity. So when we come with those proposals, I'm sure we shall have an opportunity to again engage, and then we ensure that we serve you in your constituencies. The hacking of phones and all these technical issues which you have raised, we have adequate technical capacity in the UCC, and most of these issues have been dealt with. I think there was a tendency to swap SIM cards and do all this hacking, but I'm assured by the technocrats in UCC that this has been greatly reduced, and it's no longer as a big problem as it was in the recent past. The other issue that was raised, the issue of in-country roaming and the communities at the border points picking network from the neighboring countries. The operators, again, have been required to sign agreements which ensure that you are able to pick the network within the country and cut off the external network. And I think it's a recent innovation by UCC. And going forward, we should be able to see improvement in that. Because it is true, you reach Katuna on Uganda-Rwanda border, you pick network from Rwanda. Even in Kanungu, there are points where you reach, you pick DRC. And UCC is working on it to ensure that the operators technically control the network so that you are able to pick the Ugandan network even when you are at the border points. The Honorable Member of Parliament from Bururi, we apologize that the UTL, which is a government company, would actually switch off UBC, which is the government. There has been poor coordination among the agencies, but we have come as a new team in the ministry, and we are going to coordinate the agencies. That should not happen. And when the Honorable Member of Parliament raised the matter to me, we had to reconnect UBC Bururi, and we undertake to ensure that there is better coordination among the government agencies. Even if one owes the other money, we can internally sort it out without disrupting service delivery. The issue of UBC Bururi and Sorot FM sharing a frequency, the Honorable Member had actually brought it to my attention, and I have already directed UCC to sort it out. Even in my area, there is a radio in Kanungu which was sharing a frequency with the radio in Rubirizi. You pick this, you pick the other, and it has been sorted. So technically, I think the issue can be sorted, and it will be handled so that there's no interference of one radio into of UBC Bururi. Yes, you are in a rented building. We have provided additional resources to UBC, and I know there are other forms of equipment which the honorable member had raised to upgrade the radio, and through UBC, these are going to be addressed because you need better communication facilities. Facebook, UCC regulates all these communication operators, and the law which was passed by Parliament provides the basic, the minimum conditions. And Facebook, as a private operator, breached some of these conditions, and the discussions are ongoing between the UCC, the presenting government, and Facebook to harmonize and understand each other and ensure that the law and the guidelines which we have passed as a country are followed. Because whether you are a television or radio or online communication or social media, you must fit into the communications law which was passed by this parliament. But the discussions are ongoing between UCC and Facebook, and sooner than later, I think the discussion will conclude and then we return to the original position. But those using VPN are doing it irregularly. But I can assure you that even when you use VPN, you are not avoiding taxes. You still pay tax when you use VPN. The problem is that the people lack knowledge about IT. So you may think it is free, but the taxes are still covered under VPN.
Honorable Minister. Prime Minister's question time.
Just finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I will write responses and share them with the members of the House because we have captured all the questions. So in the interest of time, we shall write put down written responses and share them with members, and we're always available to address most of these concerns. Thank you very much. And I thank the members for raising these comments, which will help us as a ministry to improve delivery of services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk, can we do 3-2?
Item 3.2, statement, government business for the succeeding week.
Right Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, allow me to give a statement under Rule 28 of our Rules of Procedure that requires me as leader of government business to make a statement in the House regarding the business of government of the preceding week. I'm therefore submitting the following business for the succeeding week, that is 28th September to 30th September 2021. Honorable Speaker, the statement, one, the statement of the status of Kampala infrastructure and institutional development project, and two, resurfacing of the old tax park in Kampala, then three, improvement of traffic control in the Kampala city, and lastly, a statement on the status of the security in the country. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable. Honorable members, as we go to the next item, important item, which is responses to questions of members. Okay, Prime Minister's question time. I think the improvements that we need to make, because these questions are now by raffle, so nobody gets to hear them before they are asked, nobody gets to see them before they are presented. The questions alone some cover 2 pages. One question covers 2 pages. I think, clerk, you need to improve on this. Once the questions are submitted to you, please redraft them so that they're like real parliamentary questions that the Prime Minister has to do. Because if the Prime Minister has to read, we can't say don't read the question because we don't know the question. You can't give us an answer to a question we don't know. But now the questions are covering pages. One question covers a page, and then the Prime Minister's response now, another 2 pages. So one question is on 4 pages. So I think we need to improve on this so that we use the Prime Minister's question time more effectively instead of, and this brings in the issue of an urgent need for we might need to look at the rules again to see how we can make this thing more functional. The same applies to Rule 155. I've just received notification from the chairman of the Committee on National Economy that since the rules were amended, now they have issues because over the time we have only had it with all borrowings was sent to the Committee on National Economy. Now they are referred to the Committee on National Economy together with the committee responsible for the particular sector, and they're having some difficulties to do that with that. It has worked for all these years without the sectoral committees. The introduction is now posing challenges. I don't know, but like I said before, we may need to set up a team to look at these rules again to make them more functional and fit for purpose. But that is for another day. Please, let's deal with the Prime Minister's question time. But you can see already that there's a challenge with the procedure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My procedural issue, Mr. Speaker, is in regard to the communication from the Prime Minister. Madam Prime Minister, you're fully aware that October promises pounding rains across the country. And October is just 1 week ahead. Mr. Speaker, sir, wouldn't it be procedural right for the Prime Minister to rope in and put into consideration the level and scale of preparedness of this country? And this is not restricted to Kasese, across the entire country, so that our citizens are not again sucked into the horror of pain, floods, and destruction of property and crops and plantations all over. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is my procedural issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Though
Mr.
the
Speaker.
procedural matter sounded like a question to the Prime Minister. I don't know how to deal with that because it's a question to the Prime Minister actually. So Prime Minister's question time, can we deal with this?
Item number 5, Prime Minister's time.
Right, Honorable.
Thank you so much. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we shall improve.
No, it's not just about you. It's about the people who ask the question, the members who ask the questions.
That's
as
why
well.
I've said we shall improve, all of us.
Thank you.
Colleagues, Honorable Akelo Luse, woman member of Parliament Amuru, asked a question, but it has a big preamble. I think that is where the Speaker has an issue. But let us read. I will try to fit in 30 minutes because that's what I'm remaining with. The National School Health Policy, which has gathered dust for the last 19 years, is now mature enough. The policy lacks the regulatory impact assessment and certificate financial implication, which are key requirements before it is presented for approval. The consequences of this lack of policy among young people will be malnutrition issues, alcohol, substance abuse, teenage pregnancies, child marriages, etc., which all hinder the young people from realizing their full potential and definitely impact negatively on the country's aspiration to attain the middle income status. The question to me was, Right Honorable Prime Minister, when will the National School Health Policy be brought in Parliament for consideration? So my response, Right Honorable Speaker, government recognizes school health as a strategic opportunity for schools to
optimize education achievement by preparing and nurturing children and youth into health and productive adults. In 2018, the Ministry of Education and Sports embarked on the process and the draft regulatory impact assessment report and the draft national school health policy were developed. The above were subjected to extensive consultations with a cross-section of various stakeholders, both within and outside the Ministry of Education and Sports. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, the Ministry of Education and Sports has reviewed its consultations using appropriate measures in the new normal, including virtual meetings. Honorable Speaker, after consultations, the technical team will prepare a costed action plan to determine the cost requirements for the national school health policy. The costed plan will also help in securing a certificate of financial implications from the Ministry of Finance Planning and Economic Development. In view of the above, Honorable Speaker, the draft national school health policy will be submitted to Cabinet for approval before 30th June 2022 and thereafter Parliament. Question number 2 came from Honorable Kahunde, woman member of Parliament, Kiriandongo District. She says that government spends more than 1 trillion annually on renting the office space for central government offices. Government committed to construct a one-stop office complex for all ministries, departments, and agencies at Wewaja. The question to me was, update this House on how government has gone with the implementation of this project at Wewaja. Honorable Speaker, my response is quite this time brief because I tried to condense it. They had given me 14 pages, but I tried to condense it in 4. In October 2017, Cabinet under Minute Extract 428, 2017, approved the policy proposals, among others, as one work with Nssf at the financial to construct a one-stop center government campus to accommodate all ministries, departments, and agencies currently accommodated in privately rented office space. The idea behind this policy proposal was to address the challenge of paying rent for government offices, which was then estimated at an annual increase of 12%, and thus risking to become unsustainable in the medium term. That is to say, between financial year 2012-2013, financial year 2020-2021, rent expenditure has risen from 38.19 billion to ceilings 130.17 billion respectively. So it is not 1 trillion, but that is the amount of money we spend, including parliamentary chambers, parliamentary offices. On 7th June 2018, the government of Uganda, represented by the Office of the President and the Ministry of Finance, on one hand, signed a project development agreement with Nssf. The campus is to be constructed on a build, operate, transfer, public-private partnership model. The understanding is that the fund would use its money to deliver a turnkey project to government. Thereafter, the government would repay the fund annual installments of shillings 177.7 billion, growing at 5% per annum for 15 years, after which the facility would revert to government. At the center of PDA is the requirement for both parties, that is Government of Uganda and Nssf, to procure consultants to fast track the realization of the campus. Nssf is obliged to procure a consultant to develop preliminary conceptual designs to form the blueprint for the campus to be reviewed and approved by Government of Uganda. On the other hand, Government of Uganda is equally required to procure a consultant, to procure a contract management consultant to monitor and oversee the interests of government during the design and construction stages of the campus. Government of Uganda finalized its procurement of the contract management consultant. On the other hand, Nssf is yet to finalize procurement of the design consultant. This was on account that their best evaluated bidder, that is MS Paragon Architects Limited, a consortium with the Impact Associates Uganda Limited, declined to sign the agreement 2 days to the expiry of their bid validity. In light of the above, the Nssf was left with no option to re-advertise for the expression of interest for the provision of the consultant services for the visibility study, design and construction supervision of the one-stop government office campus at Bwebaja in the Daily Monitor of 22nd July 2021. The implication of the revised procurement schedule for the design consultant is that the initial feasibility study for the campus is expected by 5th January 2022. The client review and approval for the draft designs will be on 9th January 2022. The scheme designs by 1st May 2022. Planning and approval by 13th July 2022. Detailed designs by 14th December 2022. And then the construction process will start earliest March 2023. Right, Honorable Speaker, the third question is from Honorable Dr. Emily Kugonza, Member of Parliament, Buyanja East Kibale District. That in 2005, government launched the Smart Land Demarcation Program in accordance with the 1998 Land Act. In September 2016, a Smart Land Demarcation exercise was launched in Kibale District. And on 9 September 2017, the President of the Republic of Uganda handed over the first batch of 250 land titles from the exercise to the locals at Vujuni Primary School amidst great excitement and jubilation by the residents of the Greater Kibale District. The President promised that the program was going to expand and benefit many more bona fide occupants in the district. Since 2017, the program has stalled and no further titles have been issued. He was asking what is the current plan of government of ensuring the program is revamped and the residents of the Greater Kibale District enabled to get these land titles. My response, Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, is that the processing of certificates of titles for residents of the Greater Kibale, that is Kibale, Kagaja, and Kakuma, those are absentee landlords. Kagatiba is ongoing for some of the places where government has fully compensated registered proprietors. Those are the absentee landlords. The compensation was carried out in a phased manner. Currently, we have processed 1,593 certificates of titles in the name of Uganda Land Commission, and the process of having these titles transferred to individual names of the bona fide occupants is underway. Honorable Speaker, the first question is what is the latest update on the program of compensation of absentee landlords, and when is the exercise of compensating absentee landlords in Chigevwa district expected to be completed? Honorable Speaker, my response is that the Uganda Land Commission has been paying claimants in installments for compensation in Chigevwa district. Based on the information in our records, payments so far made against the claimants submitted to the commission is at 54.94%. The fifth question is from Honorable Kahunde Helen, woman member of Parliament, Kiriandongo district. He asked as follows: that Karuma Bridge was constructed in 1963. It is said to be narrow, one carriageway, no pedestrian or cycle lane, no monitoring equipment. The bridge is also a site for several major and minor accidents. Government pledged to construct a new Karuma Bridge to address the above. The question is, what is the status of this project? The Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the existing bridge was constructed in 1964. That is true, and is insufficient to accommodate the increased levels of traffic on the road. The bridge has also been the scene of several accidents, as she rightly put it. The Honorable Speaker, the government of Uganda recognizes these challenges posed by the existing bridge and prioritized its replacement in our National Development Plan 3. The new bridge will provide a reliable link between the northern and southern regions and is expected to aid the development of the priority sectors of tourism, agriculture, oil and gas, and industrialization. That, Honorable Speaker, the feasibility study and detailed engineering design for the new bridge were completed in the year 2015. The bridge construction is scheduled to commence in the NDP3 period, and the government of Uganda has contacted the Japan International Cooperation Agency, that is JICA, on the possibility of partnering in the delivery of this key infrastructure. Honorable colleagues, the construction of the bridge is planned to start in the financial year 2023-2024 after completion of the financing preparation process and procurement of the contractor. Number 6, the Honorable Sesaga, Member of Parliament for Dadili East in Nssf district, asked the following question: that in Nssf district they have 34 sub-counties and 10 town councils. Out of these 14 sub-counties and 8 new town councils are not coded by the Ministry of Local Government. These have been in the existence for the last 2.5 years. As a result, the political leadership in these non-coded sub-counties and town councils do not get their ex gratia for the last 2.5 years since their establishment. Each of these honorable councillors is entitled to 525 525,000 per quarter for the last 2.5 years. Due to the failure to receive their ex gratia, the councillors have gone for litigation in respect for their areas where the district is likely to suffer a loss in compensation claims. When, this is the question, when will the new sub-counties and town councils in Silonko district be coded? And then the other one, when will the ex gratia areas to the affected honorable councillors be paid? And then the last one is, when will the new elected councillors in those uncoded sub-counties and town councils start receiving their extra gratia? Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, it is true there are it is true that there are sub-counties and town councils in Silonko which are not yet coded. They are part of the 352 town councils and 364 sub-counties which are yet to be operational. However, I wish to inform Parliament that Cabinet approved 29.3 billion Uganda shillings under the parish development model to finance the operationalization of the new 716 administrative units across the country for the initial activities. Additional funds will be availed in the next financial year's budget. In addition, the Ministry of Local Government has already submitted a supplementary request to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for the above funds. I wish to inform Parliament, that Honorable Speaker, that government is aware the term of office of the political leaders commenced on 12th May 2021. Arrangements will be made to ensure that these elected leaders are paid their due outstanding areas. The last question, that Honorable Speaker, came from Honorable Matovu Charles MP Busiro South. He asked, could the Right Honorable Prime Minister state to the House plans by government to construct and maintain public toilet facilities in all learning sites on various water bodies across the country, including those in Vusi Sub-County, Busiro County, Wakiso District? Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, government has put in place efforts to improve the landing sites on major lakes in Uganda by establishing beach management units, which are fishing community-based, to coordinate activities necessary for development activities at the landing sites. Honorable Speaker, I wish to inform this House that every financial year, government through various local government councils budgets allocates funds for a number of activities. The construction of public toilets in the public or communal places, including the common user facilities at the learning sites like that of Vusi County, falls under the sum of these. In addition, the district local governments are mandated to develop and maintain the required infrastructure at learning sites. Honorable Speaker, when I got this question, I informed the Ministry of Local Government to take up the matter and guide Wakiso District and the other districts with similar challenges to prioritize this need during the budgeting cycle for the local government, so that funds are allocated to this urgent demand. Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for responding to that question. Like we said, this is still work in progress. We'll always keep on finding the best way we can utilize this time.
Item number 4. presentation.
No, wait, the leader, the response from the leader of opposition. We are getting rusty in these procedures now. I don't know why. Leader of the opposition, yes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would like to appreciate my sister and friend, the Prime Minister, for the response to the questions. But another observation, Honourable Speaker, in agreement with your earlier concerns about the structure of these questions, I think the tendency around them is to dilute the whole essence of getting quick answers to the question that as many questions are answered. And I will join whoever will be leading to amend the rules to make sure that as many questions from members are accommodated and answered and in time. I have a few follow-up issues with the Prime Minister. Initially, on page 5, on the question raised by the Honorable Kahunde, Honourable Speaker, it is very important that costs to government are minimized and only incurred where they're inevitable. And the desire and urge to minimize costs by government housing itself in own premises, of course, which is a policy reversal because the same government sold its own buildings for a song and is now reconstituting itself to build anew. It is forgivable. The concern on Roman 3, right on the Prime Minister, about the Webaja project. I hope we're not incubating another white elephant. Parliament last year, of course, passed the famous Nssf amendment bill, which is about to race back for reconsideration by the House. Did this amendment bill affect the capacity of Nssf to deliver on the contract, on the arrangement? Because I understand if the law returns and carried as per the propositions, you're going to see a lot of outflows from the facility, the Nssf facility. And this was a new product. The amendments to the law brings within the Nssf product range, new products, which takes out money. The amendment take into consideration the tenets of this undertaking between Nssf and government, and therefore it will not be disconfigured if the law returns and carried. I hope I'm understood, Lieutenant Prime Minister. We need clarification. We don't have to come back here and race with the same questions. Then on page 7, of landlords, therefore compensation is Parliament understand the concentration in a particular enclave. I'd not begrudge you for being the leader of the beneficiary district, but you want to help Parliament understand this special concentration on around Kagadi, Chibale, Kakumiro, because the desire for compensation is countrywide. And the government was raising the $150 million US dollars from the World Bank to undertake this compensation. And at 54%, what capacity is remaining? And how many landlords, more tenants can other places, including the Greater North, including in Uganda here. So why the choice for concentration? Because there are even institutions that desired compensation. They were long evaluated and have been tracking to government to be paid out and leave government operate, and they're being frustrated. Why the concentration? And last on page 11, Right Honorable Prime Minister.
on the advice humbly given that under the parish model, these particular sub-counties and town councils become operational. I heard the president addressing the ruling party caucus. And in that caucus meeting, the funds are available to the parish model where unilaterally increased. Right Honourable Prime Minister, do you want to inform the country how much money is eventually available in the local governments where we come from? The guidelines have been shifting and migrating on the parish model. At the same time, money has been remitted and there are no guidelines and they are not moving. You can open the floor, Right Honourable Speaker, and members will tell you the same thing. So is the Prime Minister communicating coherently about the position of government on these sub-counties and subsequently what the parish model represents and how much money is available for its implementation? Right Honourable Speaker.
Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. My brother, the leader of opposition, when I look at 41, Rule 41, Sub-Rule 9, it says the leader of opposition shall have a right to comment or reply. But he is asking substantive questions, which would also now require the Prime Minister to go back, ask for responses, consult. So I just wanted to know whether procedurally we are moving well, because whereas we appreciate what he's raising, but they are very pertinent questions instead of comments or reply. So we need your guidance. Is it a matter of questioning, or he should have commented or replied to issues raised? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Under the new rules, the leader of the opposition was making an attempt to extend the Prime Minister's question time by asking additional questions. But the rules themselves do not allow new questions. The rules say you put it in the box, you do raffle, you pick, the Prime Minister responds to them. So what the rule allows you to do is to comment. But it will be up to the grace of the Right Honourable Prime Minister if she wants to answer or not. But the rules really will not allow you to speak.
In the interest of our country, honorable colleagues, I wanted to remind our colleague of how the Nssf bill or the would-be act collapsed. And I believe we are coming up with something better. Honorable Speaker, how much money is available for the parish model? I think I will come with an answer next Tuesday and next Thursday, such that I can give concrete answers for the House to appreciate how we are moving with the parish model. And the last question he asked was about Bugangaizi and the Buyaga. Honorable Speaker, these are historical injustices that took place when all of us were yet to be born. He knows that they are absentee Bagan who took over land from those counties. You are aware of the history. So government was trying to help people in that part of the country where I come from. And this has been in this house since 2006. I believe he was yet to be in this house, neither me, when Parliament and the government decided to help that part. And he knows some of his parents, because I know where he comes from, are the ones who have our titles. Yes, and the government is, NRM government is so really concerned and friendly. And for us in Bunyoro, we appreciate NRM government for helping our people out of this injustice. Right, Honorable Speaker, you see me, I have made developments in that part of the country. I don't have a title. Nobody has a title, including Emile Kugonza. So for us, we are there. So when the government comes up, yes, to help our people in that part of the country, I think, Right Honorable Speaker, the leader of opposition should appreciate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister. The first question, as you come back to respond to some of the questions, the first question on Nssf related to, was the bill returned, would have depleted the funds from Nssf? That was the question. So if you're responding, you need to deal with it. The response you gave didn't quite capture what the question was. So as you come back, please deal with it that way. Thank you. Can we continue with order, Pepper?
Item number 4, presentation of a petition of the Tororo Lockup Owners and Vendors Association presented on the various irregularities evidenced in allocation of lockup shops and stalls carried out on 18th of August 2021 by the Tororo Municipal Council and the Allocation Committee.
Honorable Yeri Apollo Ofono. Tororo Municipality.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Petition. I'm moving this petition under Rule 30 of the Rules of Procedure of the Parliament of Uganda, of the Republic of Uganda. This is the humble petition. The role of Lockup Owners and Vendors Association, which I'm representing them now, states, and who are these petitioners? These are the traders in Tororo Central Market under the umbrella.
Honorable, just proceed with the petition. Read it.
I'm reading it.
I hear you asking questions again.
No, under the umbrella of Tororo Lockup Owners and Vendors Association. The subject matter of the petition in various irregularities seen in allocation of the lockup shop and stall carried out on 18th August 2021 by the Tororo Municipal Council and Allocation Committee following a consent judgment in the High Court of Civil Suit number 047 of 2009 between the petitioners and Tororo Municipal Council. What do the petitioners say? Way back in 1980s, the native of Tororo were called upon by the Tororo Municipal Council Authority to develop an area chosen by the market using their personal resources. B, number of the lockup were built and a chosen area, and stalls were also built in the middle so that it formed a market. The stalls were in the middle and then the shops were on the sides. Yeah. C, Tororo Municipal Council approached the petitioners with the idea of developing the market to be funded by World Bank under the market and Agriculture Trade Improvement Program, known as MATIB. They resisted the said funding programs from developing the market because having developed and possesses the market for over 30 years, they feared to lose their bona fide interest in the market. So they filed a suit in the High Court of Mbale, High Court Civil Suit number 047 of 2009 against Rural Municipal Council, wherein a consent judgment dated 18th August 2014 was entered with terms that the market be redeveloped upon completion of the same. The Toro Lockup Owners and Traders Association be given opportunity to collect rent from the said market, and that the said market shop owners be relocated to relocate lockups on the ground floor, a new contract market upon their completion. Upon the completion of the development of Toro's Central Main Market, the Toro Town Clerk requested the Solicitor General to interpret the consent judgment, which the interpretation was exactly as was agreed upon by the parties in the consent judgment. On 18th August 2021, an allocation exercise for the lockup shop and the stalls were carried out. However, it has various illegality to mention. Non-eligible members of the lockup owners and vendors association participated and the illegal allocation lockups and stalls. The municipal council authority conspired with the 9 other business persons in Toro Town to register a company called Toro Market Business Association, contrary to the already existing Toro Lockup Owners and Vendors Association, with the malicious aim of empowering non-eligible persons to get allocated lockup shop and stall in the market. The purported allocation committee did not sit prior to the allocation exercise. They, as evidenced by the absence of the chairperson of the lockup owners and vendors association in the allocation committee meeting. The procedures of allocation as agreed upon the consent judgment were not followed, and that is why there were no measures taken to that effect. The technical staff from the Ministry of Local Government who were under duty to observe the transparency of allocation exercise also deviated from the term of the consent judgment. The petitioners say that above illegality and irregularities will greatly affect the running of their business and has created a cloud of uncertainty of the future of the Toro Central Market and other such market countywide. So my prayers.
Point of procedure.
For record purposes, I'm Honorable Kayondo Fred, MP Mukono South Constituency. Rule 75, 76. A member shall not read his or her speech, but may read extracts from written or printed documents in support of his or her argument, and may refresh his or her memory by referring to notes. Are you proceeding well, Mr. Speaker? If the honorable member is reading word by word of his statements, thank you. I beg to move.
Honorable, you will discover later that that is not a statement, nor is it a speech. It is a petition under Rule 30, where the member is required to read what the petitioners have presented. is proceeding very well in this circumstance.
Right, Honorable. Thank you for that wise ruling. Yeah. By the petitioner, these are the petitioner's prayers that the Parliamentary Committee on Local Government and Public Service investigate this matter and report back to Parliament within 2 weeks, and all allocation be halted until the report is out. I hereby want to lay the petition.
Let the records capture the text of the petition. Thank you, Honorable Member, for raising this issue through petition by your people. Honorable Members, if you look carefully at Rule 30, if a matter is of an urgent nature, the Speaker has discretion to handle it otherwise than what has been rendered in the prayer. Under sub-rule 5 of Rule 30, all petitions must be referred to committee. But Rule 30, sub-rule 6 provides that exception, notwithstanding sub-rule 5, the Speaker may refer a petition of an urgent matter to a particular minister or committee. Honorable Members, this relates to allocation of stalls in a market that has already been constructed. Some of them are already occupied. There's disagreement on how they were allocated. If we send it to committee, the committee will have 45 days to handle. And the prayer is that everything should be halted. This would affect the businesses of these people in Tororo. I'm therefore referring this matter to the minister responsible for local government and responsible for markets in this country to handle within 10 days and report back to this Parliament of the status of what has transpired in the Tororo market. It's so referred. Clerk, extract the minutes and submit to the minister responsible for local government. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item number 6, statement by Shadow Minister on compulsory installation of electronic tracking devices on motor vehicles and motorcycles.
Member for Mukono North, Shadow Minister, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. This is my statement on compulsory installation of electronic tracking devices on motor vehicles, together with motorcycles. Right Honorable Speaker, during his address of Parliament on 18th June 2018, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda informed the country that electronic number plates were to be fixed into every vehicle and motorcycles. The electronic number plates were to be controlled at a central monitoring system. It was advanced that the electronic plates would bolster security, particularly the management of crime scenes in this country. On August 5th, 2021, Parliament was informed by the Security Minister, Honorable Jim Muhwezi, that a Russian firm had been identified and contracted to implement the installation of electronic tracking devices on motor vehicles and motorcycles. The contract was preceded by a memorandum of understanding that was signed between government of the Republic of Uganda and Russian firm. Joint stock company, Global Security, on 19th March 2021. Ordinarily, every intervention intended at improving security in this country is welcome. However, Right Honorable Speaker, this particular project and its subsequent contract raises pertinent issues to do with fairness, privacy, and data protection.
Right Honorable Speaker, the nature of the contract during this press conference at the media center, the security minister informed the country that the joint stock company, Global Security, was contracted as a public-private partnership. The company was contracted for 10 years under a build, operate, and transfer arrangement. It is imperative to note that PPPs have an ending legal framework that elaborates how they are to be procured under Section 21, 22 of the Public-Private Partnership Act 2015, which requires, among others, that before a public-private partnership project is contracted, it should be preceded by a preliminary economic cost benefit analysis, registration with PPPs unit, and feasibility study. Section 31, 36 of the Act also specifies the procurement rules and methods. Based on the President's effect directive to the Minister of Security, issued on 13th June 2021, the joint stock company Global Security presented unsolicited proposal for the government of Uganda. Section 34 of the Public-Private Partnership Act provides a criteria and process of how unsolicited proposals should have been handled. The criteria consists, among others, of alignment to national development plan, feasibility, innovativeness, and cost-effectiveness. In the event that the proposal has been successfully evaluated, Section 34(6) provides and demands that it should be subjected to a competitive bidding procedure. When the proponent of the proposal is not successful, Section 34(7) provides for compensation of the proprietary interest. Therefore, the presidential directive not to consider any other interested bidder is unlawful, for it does not permit competitive bidding. Right Honorable Speaker, the traffic and road safety, registration of vehicles and licensing and third-party insurance regulations do not provide for installation of electronic tracking devices. That is the existing law in this country. On transportation equipment, they provide for color, character, shape, material, and placement of plates. Hence, there is no enabling law in this country providing legal provisions for the installation of tracking devices on transportation equipment. Right Honorable Speaker, the minister indicated that owners are expected to foot the bills of installation of plate replacements on already registered vehicles and motorcycles, not the government that has installed the project. It is only fair that the owner bear the plate costs at the registration of new transport equipment, while the government foots the bill of plate replacement for already registered transport equipment. Right Honorable Speaker, worryingly, the project is likely to diminish privacy of users of vehicles and motorcycles adorned with electronic plates in disguise of national security. The tracking function of the plates would violate Article 27 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, particularly location of privacy of a person. The electronic plate project not only infringes location privacy, but also life profiles of people. For instance, visits to hospital will reveal that you are ill or have a patient, while visits to offices or political organizations may reveal your political affiliation. Therefore, location tracking reveals portrait of an individual, including relations, preference, and personal aims, among others. Such information is categorized as special personal data that any public body is deterred from collecting or processing, for it violates Section 9(1) of the Data Protection and Privacy Act. Right Honorable Speaker, through the central monitoring system of the electronic plates, historical and real-time records of target would be extracted by public body. Hence, the project will facilitate government stalking without due regard to privacy of the users of transportation equipment. Precedence was already set that required a monitoring system for centers to have an enabling legal framework. For instance, the monitoring center that facilitates interception of communication was provided for under the Regulation of Interception of Communications Act. More still, Right Honorable Speaker, the tracking will not be limited to public spaces, but extends into people's private homes, particularly when vehicles and motorcycles are parked. This will in effect unreasonably lead extraction of information within home boundaries without a warrant or a court order. Given past acts of security agencies, especially curtailing movement of opposition leaders, the project is suspicious, for it may be purported at curtailing dissenting opinions against government. Although it may be argued that government may be justified to track a vehicle and motorcycle onto which public funds have been spent, it is incomprehensible when applied on private transport equipment that was never purchased on public resources. Nevertheless, information extracted about a person using a vehicle and a motorcycle on a public road or waters is not necessarily public. Even in public space, there is privacy of people. Hence, either way, consent of vehicle and motorcycle owner and users is required. In event voluntary consent is not required, there should be a lawful, well-defined procedure of accessing that vehicle. Right Honorable Speaker, when it comes to data storage, there are also issues regarding data storage and access. In the recent past, it has been reported that police has mysteriously lost the CCTV footages. This is an indication that these are gaps in the security of data, for it can end up in the hands of third parties and criminals. Wrong elements in the security circles may use their privilege to illegally retrieve data with the intention of undertaking harming tasks or horrendous acts. In conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, in regard of all these legal fairness and privacy, data protection and illegal concern, it is not surprising that the project has triggered debate and concern in the public. This subsequently prompted a personal statement from the minister responsible for security, disassociating himself from the project's due diligence clause right from the beginning. It would therefore be prudent that the Minister for Security briefs this Parliament and address the public concerns pertaining the installation of electronic tracking devices on motor vehicles and motorcycles. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, Shadow Minister, for this statement. The challenge with this kind of statement is you don't know how to process it. Has it been made under, of course, there's Rule 25, which Rule 25(2)L, which makes the provision for a statement for a shadow minister. But then the details of how you process it is not provided for. And you have two alternatives: to treat it as a statement under Rule 53, which is for the leader of the opposition, in which case I would have obtained the authorization from the leader of the opposition, giving the shadow minister the authority to act in his place and give that statement. But the other alternative, in which case it would have attracted a 1-hour debate. But the other alternative is Rule 54. In Rule 54, 2, it would come as a personal statement from a member. And this one I'm going to treat as a statement from a member. The shadow will keep it in the background. The shadow ministerial position will keep it in the background, which now gives me the advantage of only allowing a 15-minute debate. Debate starts now on this statement. Comment starts now on this matter. 15 minutes. I'm going by the number of people who want to debate it, and then I'll just divide the time. So 15 minutes divided by 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 2 minutes. I'll start from Kajar. 2 minutes, and only those, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I thank the Shadow Minister for bringing this motion to this House. Mr. Speaker, when we got information that we were going to be tracked, whoever has got a vehicle or anything that moves at a speed starting from a motorcycle, we were worried.
No, it's
But
not,
of course,
Honorable, it's not you going to be trapped, it's the vehicle.
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. But of course, when I'm riding a motorcycle or a vehicle, a motor car, my motor vehicle is being tracked and I'm inside, Mr. Speaker. But of course, we appreciate the job being done by the government to provide security to this country. However, Mr. Speaker, when you look at what is happening in this country, it is a matter of treating the behavior of Ugandans. And the government needs to find out why are Ugandans behaving the way they are behaving, but not keeping on spending more money while Uganda is one of the poorest countries. And indeed, going down to the taxpayer, a person who has got a vehicle, who paid tax for it, and now is going to pay for the vehicle to be tracked. Therefore, I propose that the government should go back to the drawing board, do research, and find out why Ugandans are behaving like this, instead of spending a lot of money to track the vehicles and put the expenditure on the taxpayer who has already paid the tax for the same vehicle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yeah, there was Agago, Chigulu. So only 7 members who stood. And
Thank
that's how I
you.
allocated the time.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Shadow Minister for giving us this report. It is true, we did Uganda, and I want to appreciate the government for coming out with the measures to curb down insecurity. But there's a bigger question that has to be asked. We are 42 million or 41 million Ugandans. We own vehicles, motorcycles, and all that. I read that during the British time, for you to own a bicycle, you need to get a license. To the extent that owning a bicycle was becoming a problem. But these days, people can own bicycles freely and they can use it. The cost implications is the question which Ugandans are trying to ask. What could be the cost? Who is going to bear this cost? And you may find somebody having a fleet of vehicles of that nature. Are we going to have a rightful target to look for these people who are trying to bring insecurity to our country? Because we may be trying to target an issues, with that issues, we are going to mix it up. So Ugandans are appreciating the government, the way they are trying all the best to curb down insecurity. But it will be better to move in a direction where Ugandans will have the
to say, yes, this is the right direction we are going for. But if you just say we have to put tracking devices for all the motorcycles, the vehicles, whatever, in a way, we may put a lot of cost to Ugandans, just like we wanted to do kind of vehicles, find out the shock observer what, the seatbelt, and all that. Then at the end, even all those things that Ugandans bought did not even help to solve the problem that is at hand. So I want to implore my government to reconsider this kind of move, because without that, we may not make the right. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Thank you very much. Chigulu South.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I have to thank the Shadow Minister for Internal Affairs for bringing up this statement. Right Honorable Speaker, the spirit within which government is trying to come up this intervention, I think the spirit is good. But Right Honorable Speaker, I think modalities have not been put in place. I remember when we were passing the loan that constructed the Entebbe Express Highway. Right Honorable Speaker, the terms of repaying this loan, this House was informed that road tolls will be put, they will be constructed along that highway. And the road users who are inconvenient, who are to be inconvenienced by the traffic jam on the old Entebbe Road were to pay that money. Government and the Minister of Works then assured this House that they will be coming up with a policy and a law that will be implementing the recovery and the repayment of this money. Right Honorable Speaker, to date, that law has never come to this floor of Parliament. And the road has begun depreciating before we begin enforcing and having this law in place. I want to appeal to government and our own government to bring a law that will help to operationalize this. It may turn out to be witch hunt of some sort. If Mr. A is not faring on well with Mr. B, somebody can fix or can parade you along this car that Mr. X stepped on this live wire at a particular moment. So, Right Honorable Speaker, this in good faith, we all want to ensure that Ugandans are safe and secure. In fact, the other incident when an Indian was attacked by goons on borders, we all got concerned that there is a lot of lawlessness in our country and we need to do something. But how I think our government and the minister responsible should come and update Parliament on how we are to enforce this. Right Honorable Speaker, I thank you and I have goodwill as far as this policy is concerned. I'm in for it. But how, this is the question we should be addressing. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Kilak.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague, the Shadow Minister, for a wonderful statement. Right Honorable Speaker, as far as the security is concerned in this country, I remember His Excellency came up with 10 points that when it is well addressed, it can curtail and improve on the security of this country. Among the 10, I saw they started implementing installation of cameras in all the big towns and cities. Right Honorable Speaker, before government come up with any other interventions, let government come and explain to Ugandans the success and failures of those 10 points raised by the president. Let the government tell us what are the impacts of installing cameras within the cities and how has it helped Ugandans before jumping and leaving what the president spoke about. Right Honorable Speaker, installing track devices on vehicles and motorbike, I think let government abandon this idea. It's not a good idea at all. People need to enjoy their privacy. When I'm moving in my private car, in my private motorbike, there is no need of government to follow wherever I am going. More so, Right Honourable Speaker, these wrongdoers, the mafias, the thugs, if they want to execute any danger missions, they may go with a vehicle which is numberless. They may go with numberless motorbike. So I really feel installing tracking devices may not help at all in improving security in this country. Right Honourable Speaker, I request the government, let the government abandon this, since it thinks of extending the cost to the individual motor vehicle owners, motorbike owners. If the cost were to be paid by the government, it may be somehow reasonable. But we have already registered our cars with the URA, and the URA has got all our details. There's no need of fresh registration again. So Ugandans should not be adding burdens on burdens. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Motion.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to move a motion under Rule 59, 1K, and our rules of procedure. Right Honourable Speaker, with the indulgence to proceed. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to move the House under Rule 59, 1K. Motion in which the opinion of the Speaker is a matter of emergency. And motion without notice, Right Honourable Speaker.
Proceed.
Thank you for indulgence. Right Honourable
Which
Speaker.
rule again, members are asking?
59, 1K. 1K. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to move that Parliament, having considered, having listened to the statement made by the honourable member from Okono North and the Shadow Minister for Internal Affairs, and having listened to the statement which drew the attention of Parliament on the fact that there are procedural flaws and legal challenges in the government program of installing tracking devices in motor vehicles and motorcycles, bearing in mind the fact that the said electronic devices will infringe on the constitutional rights of Ugandans, aware that Parliament has not been fully briefed on the procedure and stage at which this procurement is, including the funding mechanism, that Parliament moves and resolves that the said procurement be halted until government complies with the requirements, with the legal requirements under which such procurement should have been undertaken, that the minister concerned appears before Parliament and explains the steps so far taken to ensure that the said arrangement is compliant with the laws of the land. And that in view of that, Right Honourable Speaker, the minister follows the right steps and the right legal framework before implementing the said arrangement. I beg to move, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honorable members, the rule under which the leader of the opposition has chosen to move requires the speaker to examine the motion And the Speaker must come to the conclusion that it's a matter of emergency. That case has not been made. The case of emergency has not been made by the proposer of the motion. So the proposal collapses because I don't see an emergency as raised. You did not tell me that it's such an emergency that I must allow you to proceed with this motion. No. Proceed again. Proceed.
Right, Honourable Speaker, you the custodian of the rules, and at your discretion, you can choose how to allow the rules operate. Right, Honourable Speaker, this House is in a blackout, and before we know it, we're going to be faced with a very serious constitutional, challenge, because government is moving ultra vires the law. And somehow, when the minister appeared before Parliament, he only made a statement of personal explanation, as the honourable member submitted in his statement, distancing himself from the illegality for which he was being accused as minister. But, Honourable Speaker, the reason why I'm seeking your intervention procedurally is to arouse the curiosity on the emergence of the matter before this House, via the statement of the honourable member, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. That's not a procedural matter. Honourable members, the executive arm of government is represented with the front bench, and they have listened. But as for Parliament, and in the opinion of the Speaker, no emergency has been adduced to make me come to that conclusion. But they have heard. And if the minister wants to respond to this particular statement, he has the latitude to respond. But as of now, debate continues.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Honourable colleague, for the motion for the statement that you presented. Right Honourable Speaker, on 31st July of this month of July, I wrote about this particular issue on my website, sebamala.com. I highlighted that section 27 of our constitution on infringement on privacy is sincerely being attacked by the tracking opinion. I also highlighted that if we are to benchmark, in the United Kingdom, they have refined their Human Rights Act of 1998, the Data Protection Act of 1998, the Protection from Harassment Act of 1997, the Regulations of Investigatory Powers Act of 2000, the General Data Protection Regulation, in order to accommodate this particular tracking records, or what the honourable member is proposing. I also highlighted it is
Honourable member, we agreed on 2 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. For the record, Chiromira Hassan, Member of Parliament for Katikam South Constituency. The safety of our people is paramount importance, and the concern for Ugandans is installation of those tracking devices, because the devices are going to provide data, a lot of data. Now that data can be used positively or negatively. The challenge we have is that if that data goes into the wrong hands, then it's going to put the security of our people in a very, very bad status. We are aware that people move for different reasons, to meet doctors, people move to meet their families, people move to meet their friends. Now all this data put together and ending up in the wrong hands, it's going to be bad news for our country. Right Honourable Speaker, In countries where tracking devices have been installed, it has been done for accessibility on the roads and possibly to pay taxes, not for security reasons. In China, where it happened in an area, I think it is in the western area, where they are terrorists. And the reason why they installed car tracking devices is to protect the Chinese from terrorist attacks. So I concur with our leader opposition to halt the whole process of installing car tracking devices in the cars of Ugandans, because it contravenes the laws, it contravenes the Constitution of Uganda, specifically privacy and freedom of movement. Submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. You cannot concur with the leader of the opposition because he proposed a motion that was not successful. Tororo.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, government can achieve its objective, but in much a neater way and without really bringing unnecessary cost, and in compliance with the Constitution and in appreciation by the citizens of this country. The consensus is we all need peace and security. It is, nobody really hates to be attacked. But then, the way we are moving, it is in total contravention of the Constitution. The PPDA Act is categorical. No, the public-private partnership is categorical. It is borrowing. So you need to be neat. You need to avoid cost, unnecessary cost. Government can just pass a policy to say all vehicles and all motorcycles imported in Uganda must come with tracking devices. And so we can achieve this in a much neater way without bringing cost under classified
procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Taka Agnes, woman member of Parliament, Vajiri District. Right Honorable, whereas I appreciate the statement from the Shadow Minister, I'm constrained by Rule 80, whereby we are debating a matter as if government has introduced a bill regarding the installation of tracking devices to the vehicles. Right Honorable, are we proceeding well now that the bill is not yet in Parliament, and yet we are saying government is not moving rightly? Right Honorable, I beg for your indulgence.
I had given guidance earlier how I allowed this debate. The shadow minister has a right under our rules to proceed under Rule 25(2)L of our rules of procedure. And after he has proceeded, the rules are silent about how we process his statement. And I ruled out the possibility of proceeding under Rule 53, which would be for the leader of the opposition. And I ruled that out because I did not receive an authorized notification that he had been authorized to act on behalf of the leader of the opposition, in which case the debate would have taken 1 hour. I then moved to Rule 54(2) to allow the member to process the member statement as a statement of a member, which attracts a debate of 15 minutes. The matter that he has raised is important, and it has been before this House. So are we proceeding well in debating? Oh, yes, we are. And that will be the last person. Then I'll have the Honorable Idi Isabrino. I'll have the response, but I'll give some direction on how to handle this particular statement.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
But your time was up anyway. Thank you.
May I just conclude?
conclude.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My advice to government is that please go back the drawing board, rethink about the entire security arrangement using the ICT and development, rethink about the cost, rethink about complying with the constitution, rethink about public expenditure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There's a short response. No. There's a short response from the government chief whip, and they'll give guidance how we handle the statement.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank our colleague for raising this matter. Number one, Right Honorable Speaker, it's the duty of government of Uganda to protect its citizens. And that one, government will categorically do it within the limits of the law. So be rest assured, whatever you are doing it within the limits of the law. Number two, Right Honorable Speaker, if you know that you don't engage or don't intend to engage in criminal activities, don't be scared of this. But if you know that you're going to be engaging in criminal activities, please be scared. Number three, Right Honorable Speaker, I've seen the minister, the shadow minister saying the minister distanced himself and all that. The clarification I want to make is very clear. The minister made a personal statement because he was being accused that it's his personal deal. So he came here to show you that a certain due process was followed in as far as procurement was concerned, and he never personally benefited or engaged himself at a personal level. With that, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to inform colleagues that whatever has been done by government and the process which is still ongoing, it has been approved by the Attorney General. We have followed the due process of the law, and because of that, the Minister for Security, in consultation with the Attorney General, is going to prepare a comprehensive statement in regarding to this matter, Right Honorable Speaker, and present it to this House, showing clearly that whatever the shadow Minister for Security has presented as irregularities was a mere opinion of his, but not what is written in the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, you picked that as if you were listening to my brain, because I wanted to say, which now I will say, that we don't want to extend this discussion based on a government activity, but raised from the shadow minister. And neither do we want to base it on the minister's personal statement, in which case we will not be discussing as if it is a personal matter. The substance of this subject is crucial, and like the government chief whip said, we need a statement under Rule 52, which attracts a 1-hour debate. And then we see how to process it. Minister responsible for this matter, please communicate to that minister that we need a statement next week, because these matters have been in the public domain. Next week, Wednesday, want that statement to come, and we have a debate for 1 hour, and we see how to move it from there. We have had information from this side. We have had information from the personal statement of the Honorable Minister. Now we want a formal statement from the Minister under Rule 52. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 7, motion for resolution of Parliament urging government to implement measures to mitigate the effects of climate change in Uganda.
The Honorable, who is moving the motion? Honorable members, as the Honorable Otala comes here, you know that these issues of climate change, we had a debate when the Minister of State in charge of this sector made a statement and had made a reference that we should bring something from the committee so that we have a fairly comprehensive debate with clear recommendations on what government needs to do in regards to mitigating the impact of degradation, but also issues of climate change. So I am going to listen to this motion and then we see how to process it. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm moving this motion under Rule 56 of our Rules of Procedure. This is a motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to implement measures to mitigate the effects of climate change in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, whereas Objective 27, 1 and 2 of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy obligate the state to promote sustainable development and public awareness of the need to manage land, air, and water resources in a balanced and sustainable manner for the present and future generations. Aware that the Republic of Uganda is a signatory to international treaties on climate change, such as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change 1992, the Kyoto Protocol to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change 1997, and the Paris Agreement, which obligate the state to take precautionary measures to anticipate, prevent, and minimize the causes of climate change and mitigate its adverse effects. Further aware that on 27th April 2021, this August House passed into law the National Climate Change Act of 2020, whose objective is to domesticate Uganda's international obligations on climate change and provides institutional arrangements for coordinating and implementing climate change response measures and provide for financing for climate change, noting that according to the Climate Change Department of the Ministry of Water and Environment, Uganda is one of the countries that are greatly vulnerable to climate change impacts and climate variability, which, if not mitigated, has potential to irreversibly damage Uganda's fragile ecosystems, negatively impact people's livelihoods, cause national and regional insecurity, and ultimately reverse Uganda's social and economic transformation and development efforts. Further noting, Mr. Speaker, that Uganda is currently experiencing negative effects of climate change, which are exemplified by higher than usual average temperatures of 1 degree Celsius to 2.5 degrees Celsius, changes in rainfall patterns, increased frequency and intensity of rainfall events and heat waves, decrease in rainfall, significantly wetter or drier seasons, increased aridity, increased severity and length of dry season, reduction in the natural water table, and extreme variation in water levels in lakes and rivers in Uganda. Recognizing that the negative effects of climate change have resulted in increased food insecurity and low productivity, extreme weather events which lead to mudslides, landslides, soil erosion, land degradation, heat waves, aridity, and flooding, increase in the occurrence and spread of diseases like malaria and cholera, damage and destruction of infrastructure and settlements, shifts in the productivity of agricultural and natural resources, and if left unmitigated, will reverse the social, cultural, and economic development of the country. Further recognizing that according to the World Bank Climate Risk Country Profile Report 2020, Uganda's vulnerability to climate change is aggravated by its high level of poverty and high dependence on climate-sensitive sectors such as rain-fed agriculture, water, fisheries, tourism, and forestry. And yet, these sectors form the backbone of Uganda's economy and greatly contribute to Uganda's export earnings and gross domestic product. Concern that the adoption of mitigating measures to avert the negative effects of climate change are impacted by lack of adequate resources, rapid and unplanned urbanization, environmental degradation such as depletion of natural forest cover and reclamation of wetlands, over-reliance on firewood and charcoal for cooking, underdeveloped irrigation systems, near absence of disaster preparedness at the community level, lack of coordinated disaster response strategies, high transaction costs, and limited indigenous capacity to adopt climate change mitigation measures. Cognizant that unless measures are put in place to safeguard the environment, slow climate change, and prevent further environmental damage, Uganda is likely to suffer irreversible climate changes, which in turn will reverse the country's development trajectory. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Parliament that A, government urgently commences the Climate Change Act 2020 and expedites its implementation. B, that government strictly implements all environmental laws enacted by Parliament, including the National Forestry and Tree Planting Act of 2008 and the National Environmental Act of 2019. C, that government undertakes measures to mitigate the effects of climate change in Uganda, including encouraging recycling, controlling the emission of greenhouse gases, afforestation, and the use of clean forms of renewable energy sources. D, that government implements climate change mitigation and resilience measures, including building disaster response preparedness and coordination strategies at the community, national, and regional levels. And finally, E, that government encourages the development of local solutions and technologies as a means of mitigating climate change in Uganda. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move.
Is the motion seconded? Is the motion seconded? It's seconded by Bujiri. Is that Bujiri? Municipality, Manjia. Chankwanzi. That's you're not a woman. That's Chigevwa is a district. Ngomba West. And Ora, who is actually the seconder of the motion. Honorable, I hope your justification is going to be short. You know why I'm saying this? Because we had a debate of this nature. Was it yesterday or on Tuesday? It was yesterday. And I made some guidance about how we should process this and structure it better, so it takes care of all the issues, so that when we come to debate, we don't instruct piecemeal, because this is only one aspect of what is at stake. There are other aspects that should be brought in. So my guidance was that we handle this thing through committee. Both Committee on Climate Change and the one responsible for the sectoral issues of environment. And then we come and have a good debate. But this motion has come, so we had a debate yesterday. So I want your justification to be brief so that I can allow the seconder of the motion to proceed with the secondment, and then we see how to proceed.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I'm going to be very brief because, as the Right Honorable Speaker stated, we discussed just yesterday issues concerning environment and natural resources. Today, I am coming here again to stress the matter of urgency, and it is the matter of acting and acting now, or rather that we should have acted yesterday. This Honorable August House passed the National Climate Change Act way back in April. It is now 5 months down the road, and this act has not seen the light of day. As a chairperson of the committee responsible for our environment and working closely with my colleague on climate change, we felt we needed to urge government to act immediately. We have very many laws on environmental issues. The problem is implementation. When I asked about the National Climate Change Act, it has not even been published in the Gazette. And the reason I get is that some official from the ministry was mandated to go and pay money and get the act published. Up to now, it has not been done. And so I wanted to reignite the steam of my honorable sister, whom all of you know very well, as being very, very enthusiastic about environmental matters, to continue walking the talk that she used to. So as Parliament, we want really to urge her to expedite the process of putting this act in place, so that we begin to implement all the provisions in that act, including other environmental laws. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, I hear Mama Mabira saying, give me money. And I just want to remind her that under the National Environment Act, there is an environmental levy that they have been charging. And we want her to get this money, buy 3 seedlings. Each of the MPs, this is the rainfall season, each of the MPs should take over 2,000 seedlings to plant, so that we are addressing the effects of climate change. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a bipartisan matter. Water is life, environment is health. We either protect our environment or we perish with it. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Can I have the second of the motion? Briefly, sir. You all have responsibilities. Briefly, sir.
Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion on the following ground. One, whenever we see a shift in weather or temperature over a decade, whether caused by human or natural, we know that climate change is taking place. Number two, like I said yesterday, the economy of Uganda is climate change dependent. Moreover, it is agro-based economy relying on rain-fed agriculture. And 68 of these farmers are actually smallholder farmers who are living on less favored land. Of the 68, actually 80% are women. So this is a reality that we are confronting. And when you look at the development pathway of Uganda in the NDP 3, we are prioritizing energy, which relies heavily on the environment. So that is a factor that we should really give attention to climate change. We should help to address sustainable agriculture, sustainable water management, and develop resilient infrastructure. Just imagine if our bridge in Jinja is washed away by the waters because of increased rainfall brought by climate change. What will happen to the economy? What will happen to the electricity sector and the industries? The tourism sector, which is attracting a lot of money to Uganda, relies heavily on the management of the natural resources. The dams are built on the rivers, but the forests are getting degraded. And that dam, we are borrowing high interest loans to build the dams. In the future, if we destroy the watershed, then there will be no water in the river, but we shall continue paying that loan. And what will happen to the economy? So these are realities. Our industries are mainly agro-based, though we shall have some industries in the mineral sector. But for us to have agro-based industries everywhere in Uganda to address the unemployment rate, we must double production in agriculture. And we cannot double production in agriculture unless we implement sustainable land management, unless we strengthen and increase irrigation systems, so that we can have food for home use, for market, and for emergency. That is when we can have serious agro-based industries here. So this climate change is bringing a lot of severe droughts, increased water scarcity, fires, catastrophic storms. Just this afternoon, we're raising issues of hailstones. It's a result of climate change, and it is affecting many parts of the country, including my district in Zombo. There is also biodiversity loss, and yet most of our medicines, including some of them you're using for COVID, is coming from the forest or the biodiversity. There is increase in floods, landslides, and then the impact is even greater for the people in the small island. We have people in the small island here, Pome, in the Lake Victoria. They are also suffering the brunt of climate change. And to the extent that this climate change has even caused some environmental refugees. Some people are relocating. Because of landslides and other catastrophes in the mountain, we have relocated people to Bulambuli. So these are all challenges. But also health-wise, it is also affecting our health, and there is high mortality of mothers and children under 5 because of indoor air pollution. Because they are burning wood, firewood, charcoal, and also lighting using kerosene. This is a reality. It has also made cost of living high. Because of too much waste generated and dust, our water gets polluted. The cost of treatment, even for national water, is very high, and the bill is transferred on the population. So how can that kind of economy develop? The cost of the loss and damage caused by climate change is so high. We need to work together to address it. All these factors combined can bring national, local, national, regional, and even global conflict. That's why I support this motion, so that we can develop adaptation, resilience, capacity of our population, so that we can live with this climate change while achieving socioeconomic empowerment and development. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much. The two chairpersons have supported each other. One is the chair of the Environment Committee. The other is the chair of the Climate Change Committee. This matter falls squarely within your docket. I made a referral yesterday on the minister's statement on the state of the environment in Uganda, and which attracted a lengthy debate which went into 2 hours. So now that that matter has been substantially referred, I'm going to refer this motion and to the committee, to those committees, draw a central thing, have discussion with the ministers, and come back with a more comprehensive, because this only touching one aspect, a more comprehensive motion, and then we have a full debate and give guidance on the other side of the house. So this motion is referred to the committee on climate change. Now the other one was environment. Please harmonize, since we are together on these motions, draw a more comprehensive motion capturing both aspects, that we can have a good debate. Yesterday we debated for 2 hours. When this motion comes, we could do more. We have Rio, long time ago. We had Rio plus 20. I think it was 2000 something. You have COP26 coming up next month. Is it next month or the other month? And these discussions are going on globally. As our delegates, if they are going, if we have this systems to support them to go for this meeting, they must go with this very comprehensive motion and also be able to exhibit in the national, in the international meetings that will be targeting issues of environment. It will make us stronger. So it's referred. Honorable members, I have 2 more motions. Which I am not going to be able to process now. One is on the urging government to protect and conserve Bugoma Forest in Chigevwa district. And the other one is on the plan to help to put in mitigation factors to assist private schools in this problem that they've faced. Those 2 motions, we will not be able to handle them now. We'll handle them on Tuesday. And the second one on private school is from the Honorable Sendaula Christine Bukenya from Chankwanzi. We'll handle this on Tuesday. But now let us receive the statement under item 9.
Item number 9, response by Minister to urgent question, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, over the rampant power outages in Kanungu industrial area.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
Yes, right, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, during the plenary proceedings of Wednesday, 1st September 2021, Honorable James Ruigi Kaberuka, MP Kinkisi West raised a concern over rampant power outages in Kanungu industrial area, where out of 720 hours in a month, power was only available
for 200 hours, which is 80% power outage. Now, the response to this, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I wish to make the following statement on the matter. Kanungu is part of Southwest region. This region is supplied through one UETCL 132/33 kilovolt substation at Mbarara North. This is supported by Ishasha hydropower plant, which produces 6.4 megawatts installed capacity, and Muvumbe in Kabale with producing 6.5 megawatts installed capacity. Distribution lines which carry the power. The Southwest region is supplied from two backbone 33 kilovolt lines, namely one in Mbarara North, which takes power through Ishaka, Rukungiri, which is about 117 kilometers on a 33 kilovolt line, and two, Mbarara North line Kabale, which is 127 kilometers on a 33 kilovolt lines. These lines are quite long and they lose a lot of power. And to effectively supply this area, these lines are troublesome. Planned interventions to improve the power reliability in the area. The government, through Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, is extending a 132 kilovolt transmission line from Mirama to Kabale so that Kanungu and environs will be supplied power directly from Kabale substation. The project is expected to be completed in June 2023. In 2023, but on short-term intervention, the distribution company will install gadgets such as auto reclosures in mid-October 2021 to cut off sections of the two power lines when faults occur to minimize power interruptions. So there is long-term taking the power through a transmission line to Kabale substation, and then for immediate putting auto reclosures in mid-2021, October 2021. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the ultimate solution to power reliability in the entire Kigezi sub-region requires extension of transmission infrastructure to the region to reduce the length of distribution networks. As I said, the lines are more than 100 kilometers long. And when you have long lines, there is a lot of problems that arise in between. The distribution network and improve system voltages. The system voltages which cause outrages, the power outbursts. This will be achieved substantially when we get the transmission and a substation in Kabale. I wish to observe this project is going on, but we have challenges of getting land where the substation will be located. This is where I will request the members, especially those coming from the region, to work with the ministry to locate the land where we can put the substation. Otherwise, the transmission line is already in Mirama Hills. I wish to submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Is the Honorable Kaberuka here? Him not being here, honorable members, and looking at the time and matters that have been deferred to Tuesday, this House adjourned to Tuesday, 2 o'clock.